It's the greatest podcast in the history of the world.
It goes high up and under the full 40. Becky's taken a ripper!
He has a bounce, he crosses 50, he pins the ears back, and he drills the goal!
All the latest news and views from around the VAFA.
Here's the big man!
The big goal!
He's done it again! This bloke extracts some of the finest
From outside the arc. It's a long bomb from outside the arc!
This is For the Love of the Game.
You can tweet that and hashtag it bloody good.
Welcome to For the Love of the Game for another week as we count down to September. Finals begin this week in the Thirds Division, some of the women's divisional footy as well. Premier B Women's, that's all to come a little bit later on. We'll talk finals. We're going to start as we always do in William Buck Premier Men's. Welcome in Matthew, Donald and Brayden May. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Morning to you, Jason, to Brayden. I'm well. Great to be back and great to have finals starting in some of the divisions. It's always a great time of year, and so for the Premier Divisions, we're getting a bit closer, but still no closer to knowing who's actually going to take out some of these titles.
Very true. You got a little taste of a bit of finals footy on the weekend. You're at a top four matchup at Toorak Park.
Yeah, we did. There was a very impressive performance from the Zavs, which we'll get to in the Prem A review a little later on, but no, they're looking primed to challenge for top honours this season.
And Brayden, nothing sums up the craziness of William Buck Premier Men's than the upset of the year. Bottom beats top.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you have to refresh you up and think, has someone not updated the scores at the end of the game? But it's also one of those things that you think, it's great when this happened because it just throws a cat amongst the pigeons and gives you something more exciting to talk about.
It certainly does. St Bernard's pulling off the great escape. Last year, they dodged relegation with 2 late wins, and they've revived their hopes of dodging the drop once again by knocking over the league-leading University Blues at Melbourne University. And joining us is a man who finished with 31 disposals, 5 tackles, 7 clearances for the winners. Congratulations, Charlie Vague. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me. I look forward to the conversation.
You sound up and about, Charlie. I've been speaking to Steve Alessio, your coach, over the last couple of days. It feels like, from the outside looking in, there's a really great vibe. At this time of the year, you can get a little bit down in the dumps when you look at the ladder, but it seems like it's quite the opposite for you guys right now.
It is. We're starting to find some of our best footy at the moment, which is exciting. It's a bit late, but we're showing some fight, and it's crazy how much footy can dictate your emotions, either good or bad. But it's when we have a win, that Saturday, Sunday, that whole training week, you're up and about it. It's a lot more enjoyable to be around the footy club when you're winning, which has been the past couple of weeks, which has been good.
And it also works the other way. Your emotions dictate how your footy goes as well, don't they? And coming into this game, Uni Blues were on a 10-game winning streak. You guys, it was must-win for you. You knew you had to win to keep your season alive. What was the vibe and the messaging leading into the game?
Just get to work. What we're good at. We're quite a good contested footy team. Let's win the footy at the source, and then kind of go from there. So yeah, our whole training week is about fighting, contest, and I think that's what we did on Saturday. We played really well as a team, and we showed that Bernard's spirit, that Bernard's fight all day.
What did you take out of the first quarter and a bit? Because it was really heavy sledding for both teams, just 2 behinds apiece in the opening term. The opening goal didn't come until a 10-minute mark of the second term. At that stage, what are you thinking about how this game's shaping?
I was actually pretty positive, to hold Melbourne Uni, who've been on a scoring tear over the two-headed monster in Grimley and Stewart, to hold them to 2 goals, or to hold them goals in the first quarter was quite positive. So us as a group were pretty positive about how the game was going. We just needed to hit the scoreboard ourselves, and I think to hold Uni Blues to 2 goals in that first half is a credit in itself. I'm not too sure when they might have done that last, but I don't think it definitely would have been this season.
And then Matty Watson kicked a couple of goals in 2 minutes and gave you guys a 10-point lead, and you got some reward for that. We mentioned James Stewart and how much he's always a danger. He kicked a lovely goal from the boundary line about 40 out, reduced your lead to 5 points at the major break. The Blues started to get on top in contested ball in the third term and tied the scores. And then Dan Gillam, a young gun of yours, restored the lead 7 minutes later and then doubled it to 12 points. 15-minute mark of the third term, and suddenly, again, for people like Matty and Brayden who are looking at Play HQ, they're around the grounds thinking, hang on, what's going on here at Melbourne Uni? That must have given you enormous confidence. They've come back at you and you've kicked away again.
Yeah, it was a fantastic response from us boys. Gilly, when he gets on that left footy, he doesn't miss. He kicks some good goals, and when he gets a footy, he'll normally finish off his work. Same with Watto. You know, we knew if we got it in their hands, got it in our forwards' hands, that they'll more than likely finish the work, which is what they did.
Finn Shannon then kicked a couple of goals. They kicked 4 in a row, did St Bernard's at this stage. Got to 25 points up at three-quarter time. We knew the Blues were going to come back at them, and they did. But, Matty, it's a great credit to the Snowdogs that they managed to dig in that last quarter.
Yeah, and I imagine, Charlie, it would have been a particularly nervous camp early on in the final term when the Blues kicked a couple of goals really early and got the margin back to a couple of goals. What was sort of going through the mind at that point when you could feel that charge coming in, and it started really early on in the term too?
Yeah, they are. We knew they were going to come. They are a quality side. We missed one early in the fourth, which might have even iced the game. From Fergus, who's been kicking absolutely straight all year, but we missed one early in the first, and then they came back. They as a quality side did. They bounced back and were able to kind of withhold some of the pressure and withhold it long enough to kind of kick one ourselves and then kind of kick away with the game, which was an unbelievable effort from everyone involved.
Well, Charlie, I just wanted to touch on one man. I was going through the socials and I saw there was a bit of love for Ben Ablett. What's that about? What was his game that excited so many of his teammates?
Oh, he just got that dog in him, you know. Every contest,
got that Snowdog in him.
He does. He's got that Snowdog. Everything he does is 110%. You know, the contest after contest, he's going to go, and he just shows the fight that not only him but everyone showed on Saturday. So yeah, it was great.
You held them to their lowest score since round 13 last year. 12-point win moves you within a game and a half of safety with 2 to play. So if you can continue your giant killing form, knock off the reigning champs this week after you've just beaten the league leaders, you could move within half a game at Trinity if Scob do the Dogs a favour this week. And sure enough, who do you play in the final round? Trinity. It had set up a round 18 blockbuster to determine which of you drop to Premier B next season. But first things first, you've obviously got to take on Brighton this week.
Yeah, how good. What an opportunity. I was having to think that's got to be match of the day, I think. The reigning premiers come down to the snake pit. The fighting Dogs, you know, we're going to be ready for anything, ready for the cons, ready for the fight, and so will Brighton. I'm sure they're just kind of sharpening up before the finals. You know, they've been the staple of the league the past probably 2 years, even 3. So, what a challenge, what an opportunity for all of us, and I'm calling all the Snowdog supporters, get down Saturday. Let's make it as loud as we can. Let's put in every bit of effort we can, because we know us players are going to be there putting 110% in. So I'm calling all supporters to get down, make it as loud as we can, and let's make it an absolute contest and a game and a half, which I'm sure it will.
I love this energy from Charlie. It's wonderful. And Charlie, you're a veteran of this team. You've been there before. You've seen it all. You've won premierships. You've had relegation battles, etc. But, Matty, this is the beauty of relegation. St Bernard's are still effectively playing elimination finals every week. There's still so much to play for.
Yeah, no, there is. And we've seen this movie before with the Snowdogs. They did this last year. They produced an amazing fortnight to get themselves out of trouble with a couple of wins at the end of the season at the Snake Pit. Charlie, are you leaning on what you're able to do last year in the last couple of weeks, and they're heading into this final fortnight? Because that was a tremendous finish to the season for you. Are you using that to fuel another escape this time around?
We're definitely fueling that fight. It's not where we want to be, to say the least, but it's where we are. So we're just playing every week as we can. You know, you're right. As an elimination final, maybe we need to start round 1 as an elimination final. We'd see how we go. But this is that's the hand we've been dealt this year, and we can't wait for the next couple of weeks. But yeah, first that big match against Brighton, and we can't wait.
So, Brayden, you've got a long history with Charlie. I'm not even sure if Charlie's aware of this, but former Hoppers Crossing junior great you were in the Western League. How old were you guys when you were playing against? So look at he's blushing. Look at him. He's blushing.
You've thrown me under a bus. No, Charlie was a superstar back in the day. He was a very good footballer.
So what sort of age group are we talking here?
14s, 15s.
Under 14s and 15s.
You did the heavy work to make him look good, though. Isn't that what you were telling me?
You were saying, Charlie, you were saying you'd be nothing without him. That's what we were hearing. But you've been a St Bernard's junior all your life, haven't you? You obviously love this club. What does it mean to you?
Yeah. No, there's some of my best mates there. You make memories that you you can't make elsewhere. Just some of your best friends there, and not even the friends, the older boys, the culture, everything about St. Bernard's is it's special, and it's an enjoyable place to be, no matter winning or losing.
Speaking of special, I think you've got one of the great coaches, Steve Alessio. He's sort of straight shooter, a bit of old school, played obviously a lot of footy under Kevin Sheedy at AFL level. What is it about him that you enjoy playing under?
You're right. He says it how it is, and he plays. He looks at the game. He studies the opposition, and we're probably got to credit him for our turnaround in the last kind of 6 weeks. But we've changed our game plan. We've all brought in, and it's working spades. He brought us a new kind of game plan, a way that we're going to play, and it is working to a T. It's kind of put us back where we want to be in the winners list.
Without giving too much away, Charlie, but obviously everyone will have been studying over the last 5 or 6 weeks anyway from other teams. What are the sort of the broad brush things that are a little bit different about us watching St. Bernard's now to say watching you 8 weeks ago?
Oh, I think just the fight. Don't want to give too much away.
Absolutely.
I'd love to. I can, but yeah, just the fight and the bind from every player, and we just know if we win the stoppage at the footy, the source, we hopefully let the rest take care of itself.
Very diplomatically answered. Hey, Charlie, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it on For the Love of the Game. Best of luck for the next couple of weeks. We love your passion. We love your energy and enthusiasm. And as Charlie mentioned, get out to the Snake Pit this week. If you're a St. Bernard's fan, get along and support Charlie and the boys. Thanks for your time, Charlie.
Cheers, boys. Have a good afternoon. Lovely speaking.
So, gentlemen, the upset of the year. Bottom beats top for the Snowdogs. They keep their hopes of avoiding relegation alive. If they can continue that giant-killing form, knock off the reigning premiers this week after beating the league leaders last week, Matty, anything's possible this time of year. They could move within half a game of Old Trinity if Scob can do the Dogs a favour this week and win. And then who do the T's play in the final round? The Snowdogs. It would set up a blockbuster round 18 elimination final to determine which of them drops to Premier B next year.
They couldn't do it again, could they? The Snowdogs. They pulled off the Great Escape last year. If they do it this time around, it would mean that they've won their last 4 games of the home and away season. Be a remarkable story of being able to avoid the drop.
It's one of those situations where they just know every minute of the game they've got a free hit. No one's expecting them to get out of this, so they can play with a sense of freedom and no real pressure on them in a way because you're expected to get beaten. You're expected to go down. Some people are probably thinking, the committee are probably planning for Premier B footy, but in 2 weeks' time...
Still a bit to play out.
No, they're not there yet.
No.
It's very exciting.
From a Uni Blues perspective, their 10-game winning streak is over, Matty. In reality, the only thing for them to play for before September is the minor premiership, and their 1-game lead over Zabs at the top's evaporated, but they remain top by just over 5%. So their focus, they've got Caulfield and St Kevin's in the next couple of weeks. Rest up, get ready for a tilt at their first top flight flag since 2019. That last game against St Kevin's, knowing there's a bye the week after as well, it's kind of, for both those teams, who are probably going to be set in their spots. It's going to be an interesting game, that one.
Yeah, no, it will be. And I mean, I guess the takeaway from the weekend's results is that they're not the finished product yet. They've still got things that they can improve on and implement some parts of their game that they've still got to rectify. So this is probably not the worst case scenario for Uni Blues, still on top.
So Brayden, from Matty Smith's perspective, what did he have to say after the game against the Dogs?
Well, he said that St Bernard's were the deserved winners and they just set the foundation with physical pressure for most of the day, and they were able to hold territory, such a key word in the modern game at the moment, especially in Premier Men's. If you dominate territory and the ability to rebound when you don't have territory and score as well. He just said they stuck at it for longer. They just struggled to get going in the forward half despite having it in there enough. But in a positive, he shouted out 2 debutants from the 19s in Lachie Gilligan and Charlie Stevens, who look comfortable at the level.
Yeah, nice to get some fresh blood in at this time of the year, just for depth in case you need it, and also give them a taste for potentially 2027. Let's go to Toorak Park. Matty, you were there on Saturday. Old Zabs effectively locking in the double chance. They reignited the race for top spot. Impressive 39-point win over St Kevin's. Zabs owned territory in the opening terms, 17 inside 50s to 9. They shaded Scob in contested ball. Their ability to intercept the other way was excellent. They kicked 4 goals from turnovers and opened up a 19-point quarter-time lead.
Yeah, no, they were very impressive right from go to woe, Old Zabs at the weekend. It was a great matchup that we were looking forward to, and We were expecting there was going to be a really close game, but that's not what we got at all. You mentioned the territory from Zavs. They were absolutely outstanding. Every time St Kevin's went forward, it would only be for a fleeting moment. They could not lock the ball inside their forward 50 at all. And Zavs, on the other hand, were really good at applying constant pressure throughout the afternoon. And eventually the St Kevin's defence gave way, and they were just able to score at will at times, Zavs. They were really impressive at both ends of the ground.
They got out to 40 points at half-time, which was a surprising margin, and you would expect St Kevin's to respond, and they did. They muscled up on the inside after half-time. They won more football, but their kicking efficiency was down around the 50s. It was like 52%. And they just couldn't string together meaningful possession change, could they? Because Zavs managed to cut them off and turn them back the other way.
Yeah, and any time that they were able to get the looks inside 50 St Kevin's, they were wasteful in front of goal, particularly early on in the match when they had the opportunity to set the tone early. There were a couple of shots that went wide, shots that didn't even register scores in the end. So it was a really disappointing day out forward for the St Kevin's front six. But the Zavs, on the other hand, starting to get a few players back. Jed Fenley came back into the side a couple of weeks ago. Nick Guiney, Will Goss back at the weekend. Alex Trigar getting through the seconds, so you'd anticipate he wouldn't be too far away. So they're just starting to get that back six together once again. The Zavs, they're looking ominous.
Final margin was 39 points at Toorak Park. Zavs' 13th win of the season effectively seals the double chance. They now sit 2 games plus 16% ahead of Scob with 2 games to play. Also keeps the minor premiership race alive given they rejoin Uni Blues on points, separated now by just 5.23%. St Kevin's certain to finish 3rd or 4th. Their focus will be more on process than outcome over the next couple of weeks. What did Anthony Lidge have to say after the game at Toorak Park, Brayden?
Similar to the predecessing game, that Old Zavs were certainly the better team on the day and deserved to be in the top 2. I think we've discussed the top 2 just seem a bit of a class above at the moment. He said they were well drilled and have even contribution across the ground. He just said that it was disappointing that his side weren't able to compete at the level required in the game of those stakes.
Yeah, so one positive for St Kevin's have been steadily regaining best 22 players over the last few weeks. They'll get another handful this week and then a few more next week, and really by the end of next week, they're back at full strength again, just in time for finals.
Yeah, we saw some of those players come back last week. Doug Kerr, his first game back in quite a while. He kicked 3 goals from limited opportunities, so he'll be happy with his own personal return. And based on the evidence that we saw at the weekend, they're definitely going to need some of those star players back in the lineup if they want to challenge for the flag this year.
From a Zavs perspective, they're back on the winners list, and as you say, they're travelling pretty nicely. They've got some players to come back. What did Dan Donati have to say, Brayden?
He described it as a good game of ammo footy, and he just touched on both sides not at full strength, which makes it interesting. And just a quick point on that week off in between the finals, I wonder what a lot of coaches think. They want that momentum, especially guys that might only play one game into the final. It's always harder to back up. So,
well, it's interesting to see whether or not the teams that are up there already rest plays in the final round. Scob did it last year, but then that gives you 2 weeks off, and sometimes it's like that does break your rhythm, and it's hard to suddenly come clicking back. So I guess in this case, for both these teams, and in fact you could throw Brighton into this mix as well, they've had so many guys that have missed so much footy, Matty, that they probably just want to play them in round 18 to get the extra game in. The last thing those guys need is another week off.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting. Different coaches will have different philosophies. Do you try and keep your players as fresh as possible, or do you really try and keep it business as usual, not try and break the momentum? And there's probably case studies of both working, but we saw it work heavily against St Kevin's last year, and whether Anthony Lynch would be prepared to do that again remains to be seen. But he's got an interesting decision to make.
It was Old Scotch they fell to last year, St Kevin's in that final. They can breathe easier, the Cardinals. They moved a game further away from relegation, courtesy of their 34-point win over Caulfield Grammarians at Glen Huntly Park. Free-flowing opening term of footy. Both teams hit their targets. They racked up the inside 50s, made for really entertaining footy. The first 6 scores of the game were all goals, 3 apiece in the opening 21 minutes. So it was being played at a cracking pace. Another 4 goals in time on, 2 each. So it was 5 goals apiece in the opening term, 10 goals of footy in a quarter, and Scotch the advantage slightly, 5-2 to 5-zip, but they were kicking into the breeze. So for them, that was a wonderful result because then they could take control of the game in the second term. They did that. They ramped up their ball winning. They clicked their intercept game into gear. They used it to establish their uncontested game off the back of that. As we know, that's their brand of footy, Matty. And when they get that going, they're very hard to stop. 12 intercept marks for the quarter Scotch took and generated 11 scores from turnover from it.
Yeah, well, and it would not surprise me if Charlie Cormack took most of those.
Correct.
I mean, they do revolve their entire defence around him winning the ball back at a starting point, and he is one of the best in the competition at it.
They didn't take full toll on the scoreboard in that second term. They kicked 4-8, but it was classic Cardinals footy. Intercepts, uncontested chains, high disposal efficiency. That is play that keepings off. And they kicked 4-8 to 1 behind. So they got out to 33 points at halftime over the Fields. But as we've seen all year, Brayden, the Fields refused to go quietly. They responded after halftime. Cooper Lean actually struck first for Scotch, made it 39 points. But then Caulfield tackled their way back into the game. And that's one thing that Paul Sadley's put huge emphasis on all year. They kicked the next 4 goals of the game. Ethan Lackman, the youngster that we spoke to a few weeks ago, he kicked 2 of those. They got back within 16 points approaching time on in the third term. And that's been the trademark of Caulfield all year. Whether they get beaten or not, they never give in.
No, it's fantastic. And again, Paul touched on that in his post-game comments as well. And we've spoken about Caulfield all year. Personnel changes. In the last 2 weeks, they've had 17 he touched on here.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. That is long Thursday night meetings.
Yeah, that's a whole team.
And it looks like we hope so that they do survive. And it would be one of the great stories when you think about what they've gone through. He said the stats will show our pressure and tackle pressure was high, which we've touched on. The word effort is something that he touched on earlier in the season. I think there was a point where he actually questioned whether they needed
one
more.
week they really did put a barb into them and they responded.
As well, he said Scotch was able to kick a decent score into the wind in the first quarter and then they maximised it in the second. But he said that Deck Riley was fantastic after he had retired in 2022.
Yeah,
that
came back.
22 was his 150th.
He was fresh.
Yes. Well rested.
Fresh, 22 disposals and 34 hitouts. I would struggle to get that in a month after not playing for 2 years. That's remarkable.
4 years since 2022.
It's absolutely remarkable, and I don't think you can undersell just how good they have been this year. For all the challenges, the 19s that have stepped up, it's impacted their premier team in the 19s as well. I just think they've been fantastic without getting the credit that they probably deserve outside the 4 walls as well.
Yeah, so Scotch needed a steady when it was 16 points of difference time on in the third term. They kicked a couple of goals, then they kicked the first 3 of the last term, and in the end they ran away. But importantly for Caulfield, really importantly, Matty, was that they refused again in the last quarter to turn their toes up, and it could have been a heavy defeat. Scotch broke them, and it could have easily turned out to be one of those 10 or 11 goal defeats. But percentage is so important in this relegation race. So while the scoring tap was actually turned on late, it was 4 goals to 3 in favour of Caulfield. So both sides were scoring, but Caulfield was still putting score on the board. So it lessened the damage, made it a 34-point loss, which could have easily been probably double that if they had have just sort of rolled over in the last quarter. And they're still precariously positioned just half a game off the drop zone, but that percentage, they're still 5% ahead of Old Trinity. And that 5%, which can just be a handful of goals in a last quarter somewhere where it all gets too hard and you give up, that could potentially end up being the difference between being relegated or not.
This has been one of the hallmarks of Caulfield from the games that I've seen from throughout the season. They just keep going. They don't really mind too much what the state of the game is, what the margin is, how far behind they are. We saw them at a game against University Blackstone home a couple of weeks ago, and the game was well and truly done. But they kept taking the game on. They kept looking to score more goals, and that's going to hold any team in good stead if you keep being positive and keep looking to score. And that's going to come in handy come the end of the season.
So they're 5% ahead of Old Trinity. They're in 7th place at the moment. They're half a game ahead of Haileybury. That's the danger zone, the drop zone there. Just half a game. But fortunately for them, Haileybury also lost on the weekend. So there's going to be some nervous moments for all these relegation race clubs in the coming fortnight. That VAFA app's going to cop an absolute pasting over the next 2 Saturdays. Everybody's going to be logging on constantly to see the around-the-ground scores. Caulfield, 2 very challenging opponents to deal with as they continue their fight to survival. They've got Uni Blues this week and then Old Brighton to finish. No such concerns for the Cardinals now, though, of course. They're 2 games clear, plus 19% with 2 games to play. So it would take a monumental reversal of fortune for Scotch over the closing fortnight, although they do face Uni Blacks and Old Zab. So 2 teams that are capable of putting anyone to the sword. We heard about Paul Sadley's comments. What about Mark Natt? Was he feeling a lot more relaxed by Saturday night than he was on Saturday morning?
I would imagine so. I would imagine he'd be able to breathe a little bit easier at least. He said it was a great game of footy between 2 young sides that are prepared to take the game on, which is what we said about the Fields a little earlier. He said that he acknowledged that Caulfield would win their fair share of games when they played them in the opening game of the season. That's proven to be the case. He paid a great amount of credit to what Paul Sadley's been able to do and deserved to be an A grade in 2027. But as far as they were concerned with their own performance, they were really pleased with how the game panned out for large chunks. The second quarter in particular, the one where their system benefited greatly and they got a tremendous amount of reward for it. He gave particular praise to Tom Farrer and Charlie Cormack as well for their role. And Angus Jones as well, who we've touched on a little bit over the last 12 months. And he provided plenty of drive through the midfield, so getting an opportunity up the ground a bit more.
Another 8-point relegation game at Daily Oval. Uni Blacks too strong for Old Trinity. The Blacks started strongly as they did last week against Zabs. They kicked 4 of the first 5 goals, got out to a 17-point lead. The Tees then got that uncontested marking game going that we know they play so well. 27 uncontested marks in the opening term to retain the footy. So 2 totally different methods. Blacks went in and won the inside footy. The Tees were going to control it on the outside, but they both managed to connect repeatedly with their inside 50 targets. They kicked 5 scores apiece in the opening term. Blacks slightly more accurate to be slightly in front. Goals hard to come by in the second term. Blacks ultimately finding the only 3 goals of the quarter, and they managed to get out to 26 points at the major break, did the Blacks. They kicked 3-1 to no behind, just 3 behinds rather for the term. Dom Payman then struck first for Old Trinity after the break, but then back-to-back goals in a hurry from Tom St Clair and Kane Loftus, back out to 33 points. Blacks comfortably in control in that third term, then kicked another couple of majors, entering time on, out to 44 points, couple of late goals, got it back to 38, but they then put it beyond doubt, did the Blacks, with the opening goal of the final term through Ty Palmer. And then the only 3 majors of the last stanza to extend the game out to 56 points, so the reverse of what we were just saying about the field. Trinity did leak a few late and ended up losing by 56 points. So there's the difference. The field saved those goals in their game. Trinity gave those goals up, so that gap in percentage remains at around about 5%. So it was the Blacks' largest win since they defeated DYLAN last year. DYLAN didn't win a game last year, of course, in A grade by 70 points in round 7 last year. So a really precious 4 premiership points for the Blacks. Kicks them a game clear now of the Bloods with a handy percentage boost. Sees them a game and almost 20% clear of the Bloods with 2 to play. The danger, of course, still is they face Old Haileybury in the final round. So if the Blacks can't get over Old Scotch this week, but the Bloods do upset Zabs, then the final round clash becomes another one of those relegation deciders. So they're not clear yet.
No, and they've it's almost got to be by points. That percentage gap is too great for the Bloods to chase down with 2 to play. So they've got to win their last 2, and including that one against the Blacks. And the Bloods have to hope that the Blacks drop points this week. If that's the team there to leapfrog, there's other teams in there,
correct.
of course. But if that's how it's going to pan out, it's got to be done by games.
Old Trinity, that's a loss that leaves them pretty much where they were before. They're still half a game ahead of Old Haileybury, a game and a half ahead of St Bernard's. But Brayden, much like the Blacks, they face their danger in the final round because they've got to go to the Snake Pit and face the Snowdogs. So if they Trinity fall to Scob this week, and they obviously will start as outsiders, and the Snowdogs somehow manage to pull off another upset and beat Old Brighton, again, that final round clash between Old Trinity and St Bernard's will be an elimination final.
It's really exciting that we've got some excitement at that end of the table as well, and I'm glad I'm not in those positions.
Well, the bottom 4 teams could be playing against each other in the final round.
Yes.
To decide who makes it and who drops out.
Whoever did the fixture deserves a pay rise.
Yeah, brilliant.
It's fantastic.
Well done, Davo.
It's going to shape up to be a beauty. But interesting on this one, you touched on the 2 contrasting styles. Trinity were never going to get the game on their terms if they allowed the Blacks to dominate the inside. You've got to dominate the inside to get the ball out.
Or at least break even.
Exactly.
Or have an elite intercept game. And as we've seen with Trinity this year, their game's more about winning the footy, retaining possession. It's not so much a clearance or an intercept game specifically. When they play well, it's probably a balance thereof. But yeah, you're right. When Blacks get up and rolling, they get hard to stop.
And seeing Kane Loftus back has been so big in recent weeks for the Blacks as well. And if they can keep hold of him, it's going to make a world of difference. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if both sides that went into this weekend and almost pulled off some upsets.
Well, that's the other thing, Matty, to consider. It's a great point that Brayden makes, because at this time of the year, VFL season's now over. We're into finals, so it's wildcard this weekend. Williamstown versus Carlton, 11 a.m, ABC TV, around Victoria if you're interested. But what that doubt means is players that have been away playing VFL all season can now come back to their VAFA clubs for the last couple of weeks, and sides that have been struggling a little bit suddenly get injection, and 3 or 4 quality VFL standard players can make all the difference.
Well, I've often talked about the Snowdogs last year and their great escape. Pretty sure Jackson Hately came back for the last couple
played a couple
of games,
of blinders.
I think he had about 45 and 47 or something like that in his last 2 games.
Sadly, Essendon are in the finals for the Snowdogs this year, so Jackson's still got VFL commitments. But guys like Kane Loftus, who's at Richmond, they're not in the finals. He pops back to the side, and just that extra 2 or 3 quality players can make all the difference between a win and a loss that keeps you up or sends you down. So lots still to consider in the final couple of weeks of footy. In the final game of this round, Old Brighton officially punched their finals ticket for a 3rd straight year. A dominant 12-goal win over Old Haileybury at Brighton Beach. The Bloods actually got away to the better start. They kicked 3 of the first 4 goals, but then goals to Manton, Travers and Dick. And Hamish Dick, I don't know if you've seen it on socials, but if you haven't, check it out. Unbelievable goal from that left forward pocket. You know how narrow and tight that forward pocket is at Brighton Beach in front of the balcony. Yep. He was right up against the fence. It's almost a 90-degree kick from there, and he's just stepped around and bent it through beautifully. So they went from giving up 3 of the first 4 goals to leading by 8 points at the first change, and then they seized control in the second term. They kicked the first 3 goals, got out to 26 points up. Haileybury refused to drop their heads. They kicked the next 3 of their own. Tunners then steadied, composed themselves, stemmed the bleeding, and got back out to a 5-goal lead at the major break. And then, as we've seen so often, it was time for the flex at Brighton. And they rolled up their sleeves. They took over in the third term from the inside. Dominated clearance, 18-6. They won contested possession, 54-29 off the back of that. And it was basically off the back of Felix Flockhart and Josh Carr. They combined for an incredible 9 hit-outs to advantage to nothing for the quarter. And if you're feeding those ton of midfielders with first possession time and again, you're in trouble.
54-29, you said contested possessions.
Yeah.
That's a smashing in a match.
In one quarter.
Yeah, never mind a quarter.
Yeah, 20 plus at the end of the game usually means you've had a good afternoon. That is some serious football.
Straight out of the ruck. They just dominated out of the ruck. So, and we've spoken about Josh Carr and his influence. He's had a fantastic year. And what that now means for he and Felix Flockhart, because it now also makes Felix more dangerous and now Sam's Flockhart is back as well. Suddenly Marcel's got these magnets to move around that he didn't have at the start of the year.
Yeah, no, and that the Flockhart or the Felix and Josh Carr dynamic is something that we've touched on all season, because Josh Carr came into the lineup very early on and had an impact in ruck and what that can allow Felix to do. But as you say, it now adds Sam Flockhart to the mix, and all of a sudden there's some really dangerous wild cards that Marcel Bruin has at his disposal for the Tunners, and opposition clubs haven't seen how it works, so it's something that they've got to be guarded against, and something that they're not quite sure what to expect come finals time.
They kicked 5 goals in 15 minutes, and that burst in the third term when they just owned the football, put the result beyond doubt. They led by 70 at the last break, and in the end they were 72-point winners in a performance that will certainly please Marcel Bruin as they start to tune up for September. Archie Manton, another who plays a lot of VFL footy throughout the year. He reinforced his ability to shape the finals. 24 disposals, 13 marks, 5 goals.
Yeah, he's been outstanding every time he's played for the Tunners this season. They just seem to have a lot of blokes that are capable of kicking a big bag up forward.
So that defeat leaves Old Haileybury half a game from safety still. They trail Uni Blacks by a game plus 20%. And Caulfield and the Tees by that half a game in a race to survive. They'll face Blacks in the final round, as we mentioned, but given their inferior percentage, they probably need to upset Zabs at Princes Park this week if they then want to get a crack at overtaking Blacks in the final round, assuming Blacks fall to Scotch this week. That's their best chance of getting over Blacks. They're going to have to do it, as you mentioned, because of the inferior percentage. They're going to have to win both and hope the Blacks lose both. Yep. But not only were the Bloods upset over Zabs this coming week, potentially put them in a position to do that and leapfrog Blacks in the final round, it could also see them jump over Caulfield and Trinity this weekend. And that would throw a complete cat amongst the pigeons, because both will start as outsiders in those clashes against the Blues and St Kevin's. So if the Bloods can find a way, the same way Bernards did on the weekend, the whole picture changes again.
Yeah, it does. And there's nothing more dangerous than playing for a team that's fighting for its survival. And we've seen that the last couple of weeks with St Bernards. And Old Haileybury in that position now, they've got to pick up wins. And while teams in the top 4 don't necessarily have much to gain at this time, at this point of the year, just the way the ladder looks, it's all sort of locked up. Teams at the other end of the ladder, they've got everything to play for. Yeah. So it's an interesting dynamic.
What did Guy Martin have to say about this performance at Brighton? Obviously, it ended up being a 12-goal game. They're heavily down on personnel at the moment. It seems like everybody else is getting players back. Haileybury aren't.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he said. It was going to be a tough challenge because the Tunners have got a lot of players back and keep getting them back for the finals. And they had 7 outs the week before the Bloods, including 3 debutants. So that's a great story on a side note, that they're still being able to bring in the next generation in that sense. But, I mean, against Old Brighton over there, it was always going to be a pretty tough ask. He thought they showed pretty good fight for most of the game, even though the scoreline doesn't necessarily reflect it. He alluded to that patch in the third term, the 10-15 minute spell where it all just got out of control for the Bloods, and that's where the score really blew out. And thought the body language wasn't really where it needed to be. But outside of that, so we're talking a good 90% of the game, he was really happy with the way that his players fought the match out.
Nice tune-up for Marcel Bruin. Not just the margin, but the way they went about it, Brayden. They just rediscovered that mojo, that style of footy that they know stands up in September.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You must have written this one, JC. I spoke about the fact that they worked on their method, build the game style, in particular that second half, which goes back to what Matty touched on, that little period in the third quarter. Statistically, they got a lot of opportunities, but he paid credit to Haileybury for how they defended those effectively. He said it was much more consistent and pleasing to lock in the finals result. Gave a shout out to Archie Manton. Fantastic all day. It'll be interesting to see if he does get back into Port Melbourne's side. They're going quite well in the VFL as well. The mid group got going. Josh Carr was a shout-out with the Smalls. Ben Price, solid contributor. And Marlo Hoffman, with one of the great names, was great down back as well.
Yeah, so good result there for Brighton. They're locked and loaded for another September. A couple of matches against non-finalists to come before what looks almost certain to be a cutthroat first semi-final against St Kevin's there in the first week of the finals. That wraps up William Buck Premier Men's for this week. Some incredible games to come. We'll do our tips a little bit later in the show. After the break, we will talk Premier B Men's for the love of the game.
Footy finals are almost here, and there's no better way to kick them off than at the 2026 William Buck VAFA Finals Luncheon. Join MC Nat Edwards, AFL legends and Brownlow medalists James Hurd and Jimmy Bartel, plus Jason Bennett and the VAFA media team for a live For the Love of the Game finals preview. Friday, September 4th at the RACV City Club. Enjoy a premium 2-course lunch, beverage package and an unforgettable afternoon of football stories and finals insights. Book your tickets now at vafa.com.au. Don't miss out on one of the biggest events on the VAFA calendar.
This is For the Love of the Game. It is time to talk Premier B Men's with our resident expert, Matthew Donald. Matty, another massive weekend of results that have flipped the ladder around as it generally does each week in Premier B Men's. Let's start with Old Ivanhoe, because they're top's now locked in, bottom's now locked in, and then there's just chaos in the 8 spots in between. But Old Ivanhoe taking on Old Melburnians on the weekend.
Yeah, no, you're spot on there, Jason. This was a really important match for Old Melburnians. Old Ivanhoe, we know, are already going down. So it was all on the line for Old Melburnians, and they kept their finals hopes alive. Just. They managed a 6-point win on the road against the Hoers at Chelmsworth Park, 10-10-70 to 8-16-54. So inaccurate kicking there from the Hoers, costing them an upset win late in the season. This match was tight right throughout. The margin never exceeded 15 points at any stage throughout the course of the match. It was neck and neck the whole way through.
Which sums up Premier B. You're talking about a team that's going to finish last and be relegated against a team that's right in the finals mix, and all day there's nothing between them.
A team that's equal second,
yeah,
I might add, at the moment. So huge for Old Melburnians. Keeps them inside the top 4. As we said, level on points with DYLAN in second, and a game clear of both Ajax and Old Campbell, who are sort of fighting for that last spot at the moment in fourth, but they've got plenty of competition in that one. So that's a huge result for Old Melburnians, because there are a lot of teams around them that did pick up wins at the weekend. We said last week everyone in the top 4 except Collegians lost. Well, it was the other way around this weekend, so that's a massive result for OMs to just fall over the line.
And Ivanhoe kicked, 1-6 in the last quarter?
Yeah, really costly. And there wasn't a goal kicked in the last 20 minutes of the match. It was a really tense affair, but they just managed to get it done, Old Melburnians, so they'll be delighted and relieved, I suppose.
Yes, more relieved, I would imagine,
probably,
yeah.
Yes.
Next up.
Next up, I want to look at Old Carey, and I want to talk about their fortnight. It was remarkable. OMs, we just touched on, they belted them last week. Charlie Grummett kicking 9. They've done it again.
They seem to be hitting their straps at the right time, don't they?
Yeah, and they're still an unlikely, albeit, contender for finals.
But they did it last year. Yeah. Came from nowhere, remember? They were the Stephen Bradbury at the end of it all.
Well, they're still alive. They're only a game outside the top 4 with 2 to play. So they can still do it. And it took them the 4 quarters against Old Geelong at the weekend. 16-14, 110 to 14-7, 91. They trailed by 12 points at 3-quarter time, the Panthers. They kicked 7 goals to 2 in the final term to get the job done. Old Geelong just running out of legs in the last term is all it was. I mean, they apparently there might have been a bit of a sickness that had been going through the club during the week. Not tullamarine flu, an actual kind of flu this time.
Actual flu.
Yeah, actual flu. And
what a novelty.
It's a rare sort of thing to get in the VAFA, isn't it? And they'd led for pretty much most of the day up until that point, Old Geelong. They led at quarter time, half time, 3-quarter time.
They were 3 goals up at one point, weren't they? 20-odd points up at one stage of the game.
Yeah, they did have a pretty handy lead for most of the afternoon, but great credit to the Panthers again. And you mentioned it, Jace. They did this last year as well. They're only a game out away from 4th now. They're still very much alive in this race.
And they've got Ivanhoe in the last round. They've got Bowie this week, which is going to be an enormous game for them. If they can get over that, then they play Old Ivanhoe in the final round, which can go one of both 2 ways, Brayden. But Ivanhoe aren't playing to survive. They're already down. So there's an opportunity here for Carey.
Yeah, and just looking through some names, I feel like this side has been getting stronger in the last few weeks. They're just starting to get guys they've had these guys available during the year, but he's been out. It's just been different bits and pieces. Again, it's going to be very interesting. If they get the strong side, they haven't got the big gun recruits like your Sam Grant, obviously, because of VFL commitments. But if they get in, they can do some serious damage.
And they've also got in the background now happening, Luke Giles, you reported on that during the week, that Luke Giles, their coach, has announced that he won't be going on next year for family reasons. So he's wrapping up. Popular guy at the club. Again, things like that can be a galvanising force. Hey, guys, we've got a month or, together left. Let's give this everything we've got.
Exactly right. And there's also the opportunity, if the new coach who might have applied, someone might have reached out that we don't know about, they might have someone internally that they're looking at. There's guys in this side putting their hand up to say, I want to be in your side next year as well. It's a great opportunity, even if they don't make the top 4, to advertise the football club, advertise what is on offer at Old Carey for a prospective coach to come in and really build on a program that has been slowly going the last couple of years. And their goal is to play Premier footy as well. And they've got a great program. And again, if they get it right, who knows who they might attract and who he might add into what they've already got.
Well, Ajax have been riding the roller coaster, Matty. They sat second. They were the second best team in the competition at one point. I can vividly remember us saying they're the best of the rest after collegians at one stage. Then they dropped down about as low as 7th, had players go away on sabbatical, etc. through the middle of the year. They had an absolutely critical game against Old Camberwell. It was almost a must-win for them, but they got the job done.
It's been the roller coaster of the year, Ajax. It's been an incredible story for them. And yes, it looked like it was just about over for them. They'd hit a wall. They've found a way to bounce back, and what a game to do it in as well against a side that was gunning for that 4th spot in Old Camberwell. They went to Gordon Barnard Reserve, and they got the win. 26-point victory in the end for the Jackets, 15-10, 100 to 11-8, 74. It was a really good game, but particularly in the third term, they kicked away 5 goals to 3. It just opened up enough of a margin in the end, and they were able to hold on. Justin Vogel kicked 4 goals for the Jackets, not to be outdone at the other end of the ground, though. Liam Thomas for Old Camberwell. He said that as they kicked 11 goals as a team, he booted 8 of them. Chase, so it was a lone hand up forward.
He's got 44 for the year now. He's had a good season.
He has. I mean, we've obviously talked a fair bit about the goal scorers at Premier B, Mai Patel and Tom Gorell as well, who have been outstanding for their respective clubs. But Liam Thomas has very quietly had a pretty decent season up forward for the Wellers. He's certainly been Neil Connell's go-to man up forward and proved it yet again at the weekend. So
that's a really important win for Ajax because it jumps them ahead of Old Camberwell. Now, they're both on 32 points, but they've got a percentage that's 17% better. So the Jackers are back in the top 4.
Yeah, and it's a percentage that might cost Old Camberwell when all is said and done. There sits at 83. It's down there with the relegation candidates in terms of percentage, and everyone else has got a percentage that's well above them in terms of others who are chasing spots for finals. So that may prove costly for them, but the 4 points was a massive result for Lachie Buzzard and his men.
Old Geelong and Beau Morris to finish for Old Camberwell. How big is that Old Camberwell, Old Geelong game this week?
Yeah, that's going to be huge. That's going to be a massive game, isn't it? The other results, there's still 2 more games that we've got to go through. Beau Morris and DYLAN CENCH, I think this was the one that I was really looking forward to most of all coming into the weekend. DYLAN suffered a bit of a shock loss to Williamstown CYMS. Beau Morris, the informed team of the competition. DYLAN going on the road and getting the job done by 17 points in this one. An inaccurate Beau Morris. Josh Burke will be kicking himself, as will the rest of his team. 14-10-94 to 10-17-77. Huge result for DYLAN CENCH, who led at every change. They were probably the better side throughout the course of the match, but a really important performance from them. A 5-goal haul to Brent Biscacci as well proved to be the difference. And it means for DYLAN CENCH that they maintain their spot in second at the moment. They're level on wins with Old Melburnians. But as I say, given that everyone else in that top 4 battle got a win at the weekend, vital that they picked up these 4 points on the road, and particularly with Beau Morris charging. I mean, if that result had have gone Beau Morris's way, there'd be 4 teams level with 8 wins to their name.
Well, so crucial for DYLAN because they've got collegians in the final round.
Yeah.
Right, so they've got that looming in the background. They've got Ajax this weekend for DYLAN. They've got to win that game. That becomes a must-win for both those teams, really. And then DYLAN, knowing that they've got collegians in the final round, is a tough challenge against the unbeaten team of the competition. So, yeah, still a lot to do for both these teams. And Bowie on the outside looking in, but not done yet.
No, not done. And they've got 6 wins to their name, but 2 draws as well, which equates to a 7th. So that's why they're still only a game outside the top 4. So certainly wouldn't rule out any of these teams of making finals, to be honest with you, Jace.
Well, especially because Bowie can look ahead and say, well, Ajax and DYLAN are going to play each other this week, so one of them is going to lose. DYLAN's going to play collegians in the final round. Ajax will play Old Geelong in the final round, which will be no gimme. And Bowie themselves are playing Old Camberwell and Old Carey, the team immediately above them and the team immediately below them. So for Bowie, again, their destiny is largely in their own hands because they know the teams above them are potentially going to lose games. They're going to play each other or have to play Bowie.
And that's probably going to be the case with everybody in Prem B because there's so many teams vying for finals. It's inevitable that they're going to take points off each other along the way. So all of those teams will be looking and going, well, if we win our last 2 games, just because of the fact that everyone's playing everyone else, that's probably going to be enough for us.
That's right, exactly. So it's going to be a fascinating last couple of rounds, as it was last year. And last year it was Carey that managed to, when the music stopped, they had the seat. So we'll see what happens at the end of next week. The final game of the weekend, Collegians just kept on rolling. More interested now, really, they've got the minor premiership wrapped up and they're already looking to September, and rightly so. Congratulations to Geordie McKenzie and the Lions. Fantastic performance from them, Brayden, because when you drop from A to B, especially when you've been such a well-established Premier men's team, there is a chance you get a bit of a drop-off. A few blokes go, I don't want to play Premier B footy anymore, or I'm going to retire, I'm going to go somewhere else, or I'm going to take that money I've been offered in local footy, and things can fall away quickly. We saw it with Fitzroy, who went from A to B to C in continuous years. Collegians have dug their heels in right from the start. They recruited well, and they've put together an outstanding campaign that puts them in a great position to potentially propel them straight back to Premier Men's.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And if they were to fall apart now, it would be the biggest shock in every VAFA competition, 19s, thirds, anything you can think of. But look, I think they're in a position where they just know the tried and tested works. Their system's in great shape. They would respect their opposition. I wouldn't say they'd fear anyone with the way they've been able to handle them on the sides. And just the names that have been able to go in and out. You look at like Alex Lukic, who's played some VFL footy. He's back playing now. Scott Bilby among the goal kickers on the weekend. They're just a force. They're a Premier men's side.
I mean, the incredible thing about it, Matty, is the hunger and the drive that they still have. They are still putting teams away. Teams aren't getting close and they're finding a way and they're winning a game and staying undefeated because they just happen to, had a lucky bounce in the last quarter. I mean, their last wins have been 129 points, 83, 56, 90, 104, 63, 38, 60, 68. No one's getting even close to them. Of course, the flip side of that is if someone does in September, it can totally change the dynamic of things. But looking at things now from a Williamstown perspective, this was obviously a thumping loss, as we mentioned, 129 points. What does this mean for CYs in their desperate bid to stay up in Premier B?
Well, the only thing that's keeping them alive are maths and miracles, unfortunately, Jay, saying that the fact that other teams around them in that relegation zone were able to pick up wins, particularly Old Carey. That was the one. They now sit 2 games and 23% away from safety with 2 to play. We did run the numbers. It is possible that they can survive. First things first, it requires them to win both of their games, Old Geelong to lose both of their games. But the combined margin of those 4 results has to equate to about 340 points.
Yeah, so we're talking 14 to 15 goal results.
Yeah, which, I wouldn't expect that to be the case at all.
I never write anything off at all in Premier B men's.
Even by Prem B standards, that'd be pretty insane.
That would be pretty amazing. Williamstown have got Old Ivanhoe this week, so an opportunity they'll definitely look at. And then they've got Old Melburnians in the final round. And who knows what Old Melburnians, which version of them turn up. As we've seen in the last couple of weeks, they've put in some wonderful performances and some performances that they've been very disappointed with. Old Geelong, as we mentioned, have got Old Camberwell and DYLAN CENCH. So, yeah, it's certainly an uphill battle for Williamstown CYMS. Let's just run through that ladder with 2 rounds to play.
Yeah, so mathematically speaking, we've only got 1 team locked into finals still with 2 to play, and that's obviously Collegians. And we've only got 1 team that is going to be confirmed relegated to Prem C next season in Old Ivanhoe, but the rest still have something to play for, depending on how far you want to dream. So DYLAN CENCH and Old Melburnians are equal second at the moment. They've both got a 9-7 record, handy percentage lead for DYLAN CENCH, though. Ajax and Old Camberwell round out 4th and 5th at the moment. They've got 8 wins each to their name, but again, there's a big percentage gap there in favour of the Jackers. Then you've got 3 teams level on 28 points. You've got Beaumaris, Old Carey and Old Geelong. I say 28 points rather than 7 wins because Beaumaris and Old Geelong both have 6 wins and 2 draws. Old Carey with the 7-9 record. 2 games behind them, Williamstown CYMS, as we say. They're 2, mathematically, they're still alive, but it's going to take an extraordinary sequence of results to keep them alive. And then a game behind them, Old Ivanhoe, confirmed relegated to Prem C for next season.
So Old Geelong sit 8th at the moment, Brayden, but they are literally 1 game and 6% out of the finals. Still very much alive.
Yep.
I just had a look at the fixture. I was going to put it to you both. How does the top 4 finish?
No idea. We'll have to get. We'll get Maddie's power rankings in 2 weeks. Retrospectively.
Ask me at the end of round 18. Well, look, it's very obvious allegiance at the moment. Who are the number 1 ranked side? I don't think anyone can dispute that. Still feel De La Salle have earned the right over the season to be the second best team. I know they had that slip up against Williamstown CYMS the other week, but I still think they've been at least head and shoulders above the chasing pack. Then you could probably toss a blanket over a few sides from there. All Melburnians, I still rate. I know they've had a couple of slip-ups along the way, but I still think they're a very well-drilled side and you need to be in finals. So I do back them to have a bit of an impact at September. Ajax are the proper wild card for me. I mean, we've seen them run the gauntlet before. They did it last year in Prem C. They finished 4th. They made the grand final. Who's to say they couldn't do it again in Prem B, particularly on the form that they've shown?
Their best footy is certainly good enough.
Yeah, they're a team I certainly wouldn't want to be playing them.
So of the teams that are on the outside looking in, Old Camberwell, Beaumaris, Old Carey, Old Geelong, who do you think's most likely to make a late charge here and snatch 3rd or 4th?
I still think it's Beaumaris. Last week's defeat to De La Salle hurts them, but it doesn't rule them out entirely. And the other thing that will count in their favour is their percentage is better than everyone else around them, and that's going to prove
and better than the 2 teams in 3rd and 4th right now.
Yeah, that's going to prove very critical indeed. So if they can maintain that and pick up some wins, or a couple of wins, if they win both their last 2 games, I think that will be good enough for them to finish inside the top 4.
Tips to come later in the show for Premier B men's. After the break, we'll turn our attention to Prem C on For the Love of the Game.
Guzmani Gomez approved crispy chicken tenders. 100% clean Lilydale free-range chicken breast tenders. Dip them into GYG's Chipotle mayo or our sweet Chipotle barbecue sauce. Get yours now at Guzmani Gomez.
This is For the Love of the Game. Let's talk Premier C men's now with 2 rounds still to play after this one. Round 16 action. Let's go through the scores and ladder for you over the weekend. Really important game for St Bede's Mentone Tigers. They needed a win to stay in touch with the top 4, and they got the job done just over Old Peninsula down at Harry McDonald. It was St Bede's 13-14-92 defeating Peninsula 12-12-84 by 8 points. Big win for Fitzroy, who sit top of the table. 15-20-110 over Ormond, 6-4-40, a 70-point win there for the Roys. Hampton Rovers as well tacked on some handy percentage over Glenara Old McKinnon. It was Hampton Rovers 19-21-34, defeating Glenara Old McKinnon 4-3-27 by 107 points at Boss James Reserve. Another massive result, Parkdale Vultures 17-20-122. They sit 2nd spot over Pegs 4-6-30, so Parkdale by 92 points. And then the final game of the round, what turned out to be 4 blowouts out of the 5. It was Mazenod with a massive win and beautiful kicking. 20 goals, 6, 126. Defeated Marcelin 11-12-78. Again, a huge win for Mazenod as it helps them stay within touch. In fact, it keeps them clear of St Bede's Mentone. As we take a look at the overall ladder with 2 rounds to play, Fitzroy on 60 points rather, they're 15-1 on 60 points. 1 game further back is Parkdale Vultures on 56. Then a game back to Hampton Rovers on 52 plus percentage. So at the moment, the top 2 are looking pretty settled. Then it's back to Mazenod on 48. St Bede's 2 games back in 5th spot. So right now, that was why that win for Mazenod was just so important. It maintains a 2-game buffer over St Bede's Mentone. And then a big gap, obviously, back to Pegs on 16, Glenara Old McKinnon 16, 12 for Marcelin, 12 for Peninsula, and 8 for Ormond. So when we take an overall look here at Prem C, gentlemen, in the end, it's Mazenod sitting on 48 points. They're 2 games plus, or less percentage, but they're 2 games behind St Bede's Mentone Tigers. They're the only chance to jump back up into the finals race. That'll be decided over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and Mazenod, a big test for them this week. They've got Fitzroy coming
huge
up.
Test.
So if they can...
It's now or never for St Bede's Mentone Tigers, isn't it? They've got to make their move.
Yeah, and they've got Hampton Rovers coming up this week to St Bede. So if
challenging, but if they're good enough...
Yep, it's not over for them just yet.
Yep. So let's talk Division 1 footy.
Yep, let's do that, and we'll start with the closest match of the weekend. Preston Bullhats just falling over the line against St Mary's Salesian. 2 points in the end, 12-10-82 to 11-14-80 in this one for the Bullhats. They were given an almighty scare, but they just managed to hold on. Looking at some of the other results, unfortunately, the rest of them were blowouts this weekend. Parkside, 121-point win over UHSVU, 21-21, 147-3, 8-26. Paran, an outstanding win for them. 21-17, 143. Old Yarra Cobras just the 3 behinds in that match. Q Rovers 29-24, 198 to 39-27 Monash Blues. So 171 point win there for Q. And then Oakleigh over Brunswick, another big win here. How about this for accurate kicking, by the way? 29 goals, 10, 184 to 3-4-22. Huge win there for Oakleigh.
Joining us now is the star of the show. Kicked 9 goals on the weekend. ROGAN KITTS joins us. ROGAN, thanks for your time. Welcome to For the Love of the Game.
It's a pleasure to be here, boys.
Mate, congratulations on your season, up to 74 goals, and congratulations, more importantly, to the team. You've won, I think, 6 on the bounce now, and you've forced your way into the top 4.
Yeah, we've had a few injuries, so to be with a game clear and must-win game is pretty handy, but it's not done yet.
Saw a fantastic article written by Brayden May about you during the week in the News Corp papers. Brayden, you spoke to people behind the scenes. Just talk us through a little bit about what you learned about ROGAN, and then fire away.
I spoke to your coach, ROGAN. He's a terrific fellow, is Chris. He tells us that you had a bit of a big pre-season. You pretty much finished up last year, hit the road, started running, got yourself really fit, spent some time in the VFL program. And, mate, I think the key thing was that there was a bit of panic amongst sort of neutrals when we saw Luke Ashen head over to the UK to play some cricket. But, mate, you filled the goal-kicking void. What do you think have been some of the keys to your own success?
Just as soon as the season's done, I just worked on my fitness. Obviously, we learnt pretty early that Luke was going to leave, so someone had to be the next option, I guess.
Well, ROGAN, I'm curious. You need to do that much running with the goals you're kicking. It sounds like you're a bit of a stay-at-home full forward at the moment. You've been in tremendous form this season. How have you sort of found playing in such a successful team? You mentioned that there's been a fair number of injuries you've gone through, so the depth has been tested at times. What do you put the team success down to?
I guess, just next man up mentality. We've had a few reserves players that have come through, and same with the 19s, and they've all played a role. And forward line, we share the load, or we try to.
Preston Bullants have been the standout. They beat you by 81 points in round 10, and then Q beat you by 67 in round 11. So obviously that was when the injuries were hitting, ROGAN, and your season could have gone one of two ways, and then you bounced back, and since then you've won by 101, 65, a 6-point win over Parkside in a thriller, 45, 72 and 162. So the team obviously just full of confidence right now. What's really clicked from an on-field perspective? You're down the end of it, getting on the end of all this wonderful play up the ground. As you're there watching the team in action up the field, where do you see that the most improvements come from?
Definitely our pressure. We're probably a young side compared to the rest of the competition. So we really focus on our pressure and work rate up the ground.
Have you spoken much about the big picture, or has it literally been the old cliche of 1 week at a time? Because, the momentum that you've built heading towards September has been significant.
We haven't spoken about that yet. It's obviously, we're still not there yet. We've got to win on the weekend. So, we just got to get there first. And
that is a massive game this week. You've got St Mary's Salesian in the final round, but you do need to win, because the risk is that it could be the flip side of what happened last year when you guys managed to sneak in the final round. So you guys are well aware that can happen at the death. We're all aware, but pressure's on us, but we're hopeful we'll get the job done. You've got a leadership role in this team, obviously, at a pretty young age. How's that sit with you? No, I'm happy to be a leader or be viewed as a leader. We're a young forward line, so we need someone just to be a bit of a vocal point, I guess. Well, mate, you've got a few partners in crime down there. Elliot Black's kicked, I think, 14 in 2 weeks now, and Ollie Thompson's another one that Chris mentioned. What is it about the dynamic? Do you guys have a close relationship off-field and that just translates on-field? As you said, you're pretty young with some experience mixed in. Are you a pretty close group away from footy? Definitely. Before the games, we all get breakfast and go to the pools together, but we just try to give ourselves enough room and kind of complement each other's game. Tell us a little bit about your own game, ROGAN. What sort of forward are you? Probably more of a higher forward. I don't really like getting too tight to the goal square, not strong enough to body the big fullbacks out the way. So I kind of just like a run and jump at the ball. Yeah, great. And where are you at your own development curve? As Brayden mentioned, you had a bit of time, I think, down at Sandy over the summer trying to make that VFL list. Where do you sort of see your own development curve, and what's the next layers that you want to add to your game? Maybe just a bit more midfield time if they ever needed me to, but just whatever the team needs, I guess. There's not really
one thing I'm focusing on.
Have you had a bit of midfield time in the past? Did you play mids as a junior?
Well, I was on the wing when I first started at Oakleigh in the seniors, but obviously with Luke leaving and just had to kind of find a spot down there.
Rogan, we touched on how you got to be guarded against St Mary's Salesian this week, who nearly pulled off an upset against Preston Bullhounds. What are you expecting from them on the weekend?
Not haven't given it too much thought, I guess. Obviously, they're a quality team. They almost beat us when we played them at their ground, and they come within a kick against Preston, so we're not taking them too lightly.
It's going to be a fantastic game. We're very much looking forward to it, Rogan. Hey, thanks so much for your time on For the Love of the Game. Congratulations on the season you're having. We're taking a lot of joy out of watching your results week after week. Best of luck for this weekend and for the weeks ahead.
Perfect. Thanks for that, mate.
So let's talk ladder in Division 1 because, as Rogan mentioned, as we discussed, everything to play for the Krushers this weekend. It's still pretty tight at the top.
Yeah, it is, and we'll have a look at it. Preston Bullhounds, though, head and shoulders above the rest, 16-1 record. They are 3 games clear of Kew, who sit in second, and they're a game clear of both Paran and Oakleigh, both holding a 12-5 record. That rounds out the top 4, but sitting just 1 game behind them are Parkside. Now, the percentage is a bit of a factor here. So Paran's percentage is just well clear. So they're in no danger, you would think, of dropping out of the top 4. But Oakleigh have an inferior percentage to Parkside. So if Parkside do win and Oakleigh don't, or if Oakleigh lose, rather, a draw will be good enough for Oakleigh. But if Parkside win and Oakleigh lose, then those two will switch positions. Parkside will move into the top 4 at Oakley's expense. That's the only interesting sort of subplot left as far as finals are concerned, because 3 games behind Parkside at the moment, St Mary's Salesian, and 6.5 wins to their name. Brunswick at the moment, then Monash, UHSVU, and Old Yarra Cobras round out the ladder.
So as you mentioned with Brogan, last year Oakleigh were on the other side of it. They managed to sneak in at the death. This year they need to make sure they take care of business in the final round to ensure they survive in Division 1 for 2027. That brings us to Division 2. Brayden, what can you tell us?
Yeah, a bit of moving day in Division 2 in the penultimate round. The biggest result for me, Whitefriars 14-15-99 defeated Canterbury 9-16-70. It's put Whitefriars in position to earn the double chance we'll get to when we look at the ladder in a sec. Melbourne High School Old Boys, the ladder leader, 15-13-103, defeated Elstonwick 11-10-76. Powerhouse strengthened their grip in the top 4, 15-16-106, defeated South Melbourne Districts 12-6-78. Theory Penola had a win 9-16-70 over Aquinas 6-10-46, and West Brunswick closed out the round with a 10-9-69 to 7-8-50 win over their northern neighbours, North Brunswick. So it shapes up to a massive ladder heading into the final round of the season. Melbourne High School Old Boys and Whitefriars, they're in the top 2 at the moment on 52 points. Powerhouse are a game further back, in third. Canterbury are on 44 points. Elstonwick are 5th on 40 points. West Brunswick, they're just middle of the table on 32. Theory Penola, 28 points. South Melbourne Districts on 20. North Brunswick on 16 and Aquinas on 8 points. But if I can just quickly touch on the final round. Canterbury travel to take on Melbourne High School Old Boys. Lose that and Elstonwick beat West Brunswick. They jump in.
Yeah.
Whitefriars will play against Theory Penola. Lose that and there's every possibility that Powerhouse should beat North Brunswick and they take the double chance.
Yeah.
So it's all happening. It's a really exciting weekend.
Yep, and down the bottom end of the ladder, it is North Brunswick on 16. They're in 9th position. They're in 16 and a percentage of 70.3. They're a game behind South Melbourne, who are 20 and 87, so 17% there. So at the moment, highly unlikely, unless things went horrifically wrong for South Melbourne and incredibly right for North Brunswick. The 2 teams that will drop down out of Division 2 are North Brunswick and Aquinas. Speaking of Division 3, which is where they would be heading, 2 games over the weekend. La Trobe University, 13-14-92, defeated Albert Park 7-8-50 by 42 points. And this is a really interesting one. Hawthorn, 15-14-104, defeated Richmond Central 11-10-76 by 28 points. Wattle Park lead the table. They're 14 and zip. We'll get to unbeaten a little later with Senchi on 56 points. Well clear of Hawthorn now, who are second on 36. They've kicked a game clear of Richmond Central. They were level on points. Now they've gone 1 game clear. Hawthorn second on 36, Richmond on 32. Great win for Latrobe, as we mentioned, they're on 16, and Albert Park on 4. Final round of the divisional footy this weekend. We've got finals to talk about shortly. We'll do that a little bit later on. They start this weekend. Best of luck to everyone playing divisional this weekend. For those who are trying to make finals, those who are trying to hang on to their spot inside the top 4, and for those who are trying to avoid relegation, best of luck to everybody. It's going to be a gripping weekend of VAFA divisional footy. That wraps up our men's competition for this week. After the break, we'll talk VAFA Women's. That's next on For the Love of the Game.
Footy finals are almost here, and there's no better way to kick them off than at the 2026 William Buck VAFA Finals Luncheon. Join MC Nat Edwards, AFL legends and Brownlow medalists James Hird and Jimmy Bartel, plus Jason Bennett and the VAFA media team for a live For the Love of the Game finals preview. Friday, September 4th at the RACV City Club. Enjoy a premium 2-course lunch, beverage package and an unforgettable afternoon of football stories and finals insights. Book your tickets now at vafa.com.au. Don't miss out on one of the biggest events on the VAFA calendar.
This is For the Love of the Game. It's time to talk VAFA Women's football as we head towards September. Let's run through our William Buck Premier Women's results from the weekend. Old Scotch kept on keeping on. Massive winners over Fitzroy. 19-14, 128 defeated the Roys. 128, 120 points the margin at Brunswick Street Oval. St Kevin 6-5, 41 over Q4, 125. Scob by 16 points. Caulfield Grammarians put an end to Old Scotch's charge. I think they'd won 4 in a row, the Old Geelong rather. They'd won 4 in a row, the Ogettes, and they ran into Caulfield 10-10-70 to no score. The Fields blotted them 10-10 to nothing at Como Park. Great result for the Fields, who are building nicely towards September. West Brunswick 5-7-37 defeated Old Brighton 1-5-11 by 26 points. The Magpies at home at McAllister. So looking at the ladder, coming into the game of the year this week, Old Scotch and Caulfield are well clear. They're on 52 points. They're 6 games clear of everyone else. They will meet this weekend on Caulfield's home turf. What a game that's going to be. That will more than likely decide the minor premiership. They're going to finish top 2 anyway, and they'll meet in the second semi-final no matter what. They're so far clear of the rest. But it'll be interesting psychologically to see what comes out of this weekend. Scotch and Caulfield 52. West Brunswick on 28. But this is done on match ratio. So West Brunswick, Q, and Old Brighton all locked together on 50. So with 2 weeks to go, the race for the top 4 is still well and truly on. Old Geelong still in the mix at 43-75. Fitzroy at 40 and St Kevin's at 40. And Westbourne bring up the bottom of the ladder. But Caulfield versus Old Scotch. Tips coming up later in the show. Let's talk Prem B Women's.
Let's do that,
because they're done. They're in the finals now. We can have some certainty on the final ladder. What happened in the last round?
Well, there were some really interesting results, and the one I want to start with here is Ulsterwick Park. Old Melburnians and Port Melbourne Chargers. The Chargers coming away with a 13-point win, which ahead of finals just makes things a little interesting indeed. Scores level at three-quarter time in this one. They kicked 2-0 in the final term. Port Melbourne Chargers 38-26 to 2-1-13. Bo Morris, who are top of the table, they'd already secured the minor premiership against Parkside, whose chances of qualifying for finals were remote at this point, but they needed to get the win and they didn't. Bo Morris 9-12-66 to 6-4-40. Old Severians had to beat Glen Ira Old McKinnon to keep its finals hopes alive, and they did just. They beat the Griffins by 1 point, 3-12-30 to 4-5-29. So a rare instance of fewer goals, but getting the win. It kept them alive, but they needed Williamstown to lose to Old Yarra Cobras. They didn't. Williamstown with a big, big win here. 110 points, the final score. 18-9, 117. Very nice kicking to 1-1-7. So the final ladder for Prem B as Bo Morris, 15 wins from their 16 games, 60 points, dominant minor premiers. Old Melburnians still finished in second spot despite the defeat to Port Melbourne Chargers. So a 10-5 record for the OMs, the Chargers, with a 9-7 record. Williamstown CYMS and Old Zaverians finished with 8 wins to their name, but Williamstown sneak into the top 4 by virtue of percentage. It was a big percentage gap in the end, exacerbated by the win over Old Yarra Cobras. Parkside finished 2 games away from those two with a 6-10 record, and then sitting 2 games behind Parkside were both Glen Ira, Old McKinnon, and Old Yarra Cobras, who each had 4 wins to their name for the season. And what it means for week 1 of the finals.
I've got it right here, hot off the press. The 2 semi-finals will be played as a doubleheader at Coburg City Oval this Saturday. So the first semi-final, which is Port Melbourne Chargers taking on Williamstown CYMS. Cutthroat game, this one. Winner goes to the prelim, loser is done. From 11:50 at Coburg City Oval this Saturday. That will be followed immediately after by the second semi-final, the double chance game. Bo Morris versus Old Melburnians. The winner goes through to the grand final. The loser plays the winner of the first semi-final in the prelim. That game's at 2 p.m. So the doubleheader at Coburg City Oval from 11:50 this Saturday. Port Melbourne Chargers, Williamstown into Bo Morris, Old Melburnians. So a doubleheader, get along there for Prem B Women's action this Saturday.
Now changing up to Division 1 where there was critical results to the final makeup of the ladder. Ormond secured the minor premiership 8-5-53, defeated Latrobe 2 straight 12. Into Powerhouse 8-12-60, beat Monash Blues 2-2-14. Meanwhile, Marcelin 5-3-33, defeated Oakleigh 3-5-23. And then in the final game, Whitefriars 9-7-61, defeated Old Kerry 1-6-12. And what that means for the ladder, as we touched on, Ormond finished on top, one game clear on 52 points. Powerhouse finished second on percentage ahead of Marcelin, both on 48 points. Monash Blues locked into fourth position on 38 points. Whitefriars on 32. Old Kerry on 26. Oakleigh on 10 and Latrobe on 8.
So Division 1 women's finals will be this Sunday, and they will be at two different venues. The first semi-final between Marcelin and Monash Blues will be at Coburg City Oval at 2 p.m. So 2 p.m. this Sunday, Marcelin and Monash Blues in the cutthroat first semi. The second semi-final, winner straight to the grand final, is Ormond versus Powerhouse, 2 p.m. at Jack Barker Reserve. So Sunday, 2 p.m, Jack Barker Reserve for Ormond versus Powerhouse. Marcelin Monash, 2 p.m. at Coburg City Oval. That's Division 1 women's. Division 2 women's, final round action. St Mary's Salesian in a thriller over UHSBU, 2-4-16 to 1-5-11. St Mary's Salesian by 5 points. Richmond Central, 44-point winners over Hampton Rovers, 7-13-55 to 1-5-11. De La Salle by 32 points over Beaumaris, 7-11-53 to 3-3-21. And the final game of the final round, Old Camberwell, 5-7-37, defeated MCC, one behind by 36 points. So the final ladder in Division 2 women's, Richmond Central ahead of De La Salle, St Mary's Salesian in third, Old Camberwell in fourth, and a big gap to Beaumaris, MCC, UHSVU and Hampton Rovers, which means our Division 2 women's games are split across the weekend. There's one on Saturday and one on Sunday. The first semi-final is Saturday. This is the cutthroat game. St Mary's Salesian against Old Camberwell, 2 p.m. at Waverley Oval, which is in East Malvern, the De La Salle ground. So 2 p.m. Saturday, St Mary's Salesian versus Old Camberwell. Then the second semi-final is Sunday. It's Richmond Central versus De La Salle, 9:40 Jack Barker Reserve on Sunday morning. The second semi-final, winner goes straight through to the grand final. Congratulations to all those teams. St Mary's Salesians and Old Camberwell on Saturday at 2, and then Richmond Central and De La 9:40 Sunday Division 2 action.
And Div 3, and we've got a couple of stunning results here, truth be told, Jace. We'll start with Parkdale Vultures, who secured the minor premiership in what was a three-way battle for top spot. And how? 12-14-86 over Caulfield, who failed to score. So a dominant performance there from the Vultures. Hawthorn got a win over Old Yarra Cobras, 7-6-48 to 4-1-25. But the real stunning result out of all of this comes at Harry Trott Oval. Paranka Legions, the two Blue Lions, the best nickname in the game, 3-3-21. They upset Old Haileybury 1-8-14. Remarkably in this one, Jace, the Lions scored in one quarter. They they managed their entire score in the second term. They did not score in any of the other three quarters. And what that means is that as a consequence of Hawthorn winning and Old Haileybury losing, is it means Hawthorn secure the double chance. And Old Haileybury dropped to third as a result. And Old Haileybury and Paranka Legions, who played each other last week,
run it back.
They're going to play each other again in the finals, which we will preview in just a moment. But the final ladder looks like this. Parkdale Vultures with a 13 wins to their name and a percentage that fell just under 400 at the end. Hawthorn level with them, but considerably behind our percentage. So that's the top two. Old Haileybury in third with 12 wins to their name. Paranka Legions, 3 games behind them in fourth. That's why that's a bit of an upset there. And then rounding out the ladder, Caulfield with 3 wins to the name, a 3-13 record this season. Old Yarra Cobras, who managed just 1 win for the campaign.
So our Division 3 women first week of finals, the 2 semis, are a double-header at Waverley Oval at East Malvern as part of a triple-header, because then we'll have that Division 2 game afterwards. But the first semi-final, Old Haileybury and Paranka Legions, 9:40 Waverley Oval in East Malvern, immediately followed by the second semi, Parkdale Vultures versus Hawthorn from 11:50 at Waverley Oval. And then you can stick around and get that first semi-final of the Division 2 game, St Mary's Salesian into Old Camberwell. So it's actually a triple header of women's divisional footy at East Malvern on Saturday.
Oh, it's going to be a ripping weekend. Get down there if you can.
So that's Div 3. Let's talk Div 4.
Yeah, Div 4, the season closed out with Albert Park picking up a win, 5-11-41, defeated Canterbury 3-3-21. And then in a preview of the second semi-final, Aquinas beat Mazanod 5-7-37 to 3-2-20. Brunswick with a 7-11-53 to 0-1 1-point win over Old Zavs 2. North Brunswick 3-3-21 defeated Fitzroy's third team 2 straight 12. And then on the Sunday, Wattle Park 2-11-23 defeated the Muggers 2-1-13. And now where that leaves the final ladder at the end of the season after 16 games.
Leaves it pretty close is where it leaves it.
Yes. Very, very close. Let me go through this. Aquinas and Mazenod, they finished 1 and 2 on percentage, 44 points both of them. Wattle Park, unfortunately, finishing third with a percentage of 129, so they're about 100%.
But also on 44 points.
Also on 44.
Yeah.
I
don't think I've ever seen a three-way tie for top spot
That's
at the end of a home and away season.
Just wait a second until we get a bit further. Old Zavs, they finished fourth on 36 points. So they're a game and a half crew of Brunswick and Albert Park on 30 points. Then Canterbury and the Muggers were both on 28, and they finished 7-8. North Brunswick finished 9th on 6 wins, and Fitzroy's third team finished last on 4 wins. That's a pretty tight competition.
Very tight competition, and
yeah.
their teams down the bottom of the ladder still well capable of winning. So that is Division 4 Women's. Their finals are on Sunday, and it is a doubleheader out at Whitefriars College. It kicks off at 11:50 with the first semi, the cutthroat game. Wattle Park versus Old Zabs from 11:50 at Whitefriars on Sunday, straight into the 2 p.m. game, which is the second semi-final, Aquinas and Mazenod. So out at Whitefriars this Sunday, 11:50 Wattle Park Old Zabs, and 2 p.m. Aquinas versus Mazenod. That is Division 4 Women's, which takes us through to Division 5. Let's go through the results from the final round of action as they head towards finals this weekend as well. Elstonwick 2-6-18 defeated West Brunswick 2-1-13 by 5 points. Ormond big winners over the Griffins 9-11-65 to 1-2-8. St Kevin's 6-12-48 against DYLAN CENCH didn't score. Parkside 3-6-24, 10-point winners over South Melbourne 2-2-14. And Preston Bullants, big win for them, 7-9-51 defeated Monash 1-1-7 by 44 points. So that brings us to our final ladder in Division 5. Preston Bullants 13-3, they're 52 points. 1 game clear of St Kevin's on 40, 1.5 games rather, on 46. Back to Elstonwick on 40. Ormond on 36. They finished in the top 4, a game clear of West Brunswick, Parkside, South Melbourne, Glenara, Old McKinnon, Monash Blues and DYLAN CENCH. So it is a double header. Well, actually, it's not. It's 2 different venues at the same time on Sunday. Both the games are Sunday. The first semi-final, the cutthroat game, is at Jack Barker Reserve at 11:50 a.m. That's the Elstonwick Ormond first semi-final. 11:50 at Jack Barker Reserve. At the same time, on the other side of town, over at Coburg City Oval, Preston Bullants take on St Kevin's in the second semi-final. The winner of that game to go straight through to the grand final in Division 5 Women's. So the first semi, 11:50 at Jack Barker, Elstonwick and Ormond. The second semi, Sunday at 11:50, Preston Bullants versus St Kevin's. We should also mention Under-19 Premier Women's, who have come to the end of their home and away season. So they will start finals this weekend as well. The final ladder for this competition for William Buck Premier Women's is, I'll just bring it up on my screen here, and it is a 4-team competition, as we know. Willie CYMS finished on 36, 220.5 percentage, ahead of Old Scotch on percentage, 36, 161.2. So about 64% there, CYs win the minor premiership. Westbourne finished third on 24, and University Blacks finished fourth. So with a 4-team competition, they now start a finals round robin. You've got your second semi-final to go straight through to grand final day is on Saturday. Saturday at 9:40 at Coburg City Oval. That will be ahead of the 2 Premier Women's games. So it's Williamstown CYMS against Old Scotch. 9:40 Saturday at Coburg City Oval. Then the first semi-final on Sunday at Coburg City Oval. Westbourne Grammarians versus University Blacks. 9:40 on Sunday. Best of luck to all the teams playing there. Condolences to those who just missed out, and there were a few hard luck stories, Brayden. There always are at this time of the year.
Oh, it happens, and it just shows how important every win is in the context of the season. I know we look week to week, but every little 4 points matters.
Congratulations to all who have made it. Best of luck for this weekend. It's going to be a wonderful weekend of women's finals football. Coming up next, we will turn our attention to Holmesglen Under 19 Premier as For the Love of the Game continues. Looking for a new gym? Well, Revo Fitness has you covered. It's just $9.69 a week. No lock-in contracts, and you get 24/7 access to every Revo gym. Add just $3 extra per week for unlimited reformer Pilates, massage chairs, and body scanners. Revo Fitness. Proper value, No gimmicks. Find your nearest gym at rebofitness.com.au. This is For the Love of the Game. Time to talk Holmesglen Under 19 Premier. Senchi, welcome.
Good to be here again.
How was your weekend? What caught your eye? We'll get to Cench Watch a little bit later on, but just in the general scheme of things.
Well, I've just seen Old Peninsula in Under 19s South Div 2. They've kicked a goal after the siren to win the game.
Oh, well, a bit of Under 19 news.
That
caught your eye.
I'll save that for later.
Save that for later, absolutely. What have you made of the Holmesglen Under 19 Premier competition over the weekend? How'd you go on the tipping? We'll get to that in a moment.
The tipping actually started well. I was worried for Lachie for a second because I got the two 9-20 games correct.
Yeah.
And then it sort of went a bit pear-shaped after that. But
yeah, he fought back.
Yeah.
It was brave from LACHIE MOIR, our Holmesglen Under 19 Premier reporter who joins us. Lock, g'day.
G'day, boys. Yeah, lucky I came late there.
Yeah, sort of late morning you were thinking, oh, no, not again. I'm going to cop another hammering in the socials.
Yeah. Well, the worst thing was I had old Zabs as one of my best, but then I changed to old Brighton because Senchi obviously has the honour. So, yeah, it's a bit stiff there.
I don't know how many times I've done that in my tipping comp over the decades, and not once has a late tip ever got up when I've changed it. Like a team runs out and I go, why did I pick that? I'm going to change every single time without fail. Whoever I change to loses.
Hang on a second. You tip? I thought football was always the winner.
I don't tip VAFA because I'm very neutral.
Okay.
Yeah. Just a family thing, try to pretend to be social.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't do a very good job of it. The tipping, yes. The social, not so much. Yeah. But anyway, that's my own, we don't need to get into that. That's why I pay a therapist. Let's start with Old Scotch and Parkdale, Lachie. Senchi's team rolling again.
They are huge 89-point victors here over Parkdale, 119-30. Speaking to sort of the Parkdale coach, Nick Anderson, he was really describing Scotch as a slick outfit and one to watch. They've obviously now rocketed into fourth, a game clear of DYLAN, so they're going really well. But for Parkdale, if you look on the other side of it, they actually got the opportunity to give a couple of Morty Bray under 17s an opportunity, which is something that they were really proud about on the day. But yeah, massive win for Scotch. They're clear in fourth now, but Parkdale definitely can take something out of the day with the under 17 boys getting a run. And
essentially, when we look at Scotch and their percentage is 132.9, which is better than Old Zabs, who are a game ahead of them. Old Zabs are only 118.1, so that Scotch percentage could end up being really handy, both in staying in the top four, but also potentially even sneaking the double chance.
Well, yeah, they're pretty much 2 games in the top 4 now, so they're, I'd say, cemented in there.
Makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it does. Lachie, I want to look at TH King because the team sandwiched in between the Zavs and Scotch. St Kevin's got a big win, but the headline act, Darcy Hepburn, had a day out.
Yeah, that's right. But to touch on St Kevin's first, yeah, they were superb there. A bounce-back performance that they needed after the loss last week. And speaking to Paul Greenham, he was really happy with it. He sort of said the only negative to sort of touch on was the inaccurate goal kicking, but yeah, when they get humming and they get going, they're pretty hard to stop. But, yeah, Darcy Hepburn has 6 goals. Shout out to him. Absolutely flying. And then, yeah, just to look sort of, if you look forward in their fixture, their last 2 games, they're probably going to be season defining for them and sort of define whether or not they can win a premiership. Because if they finish third, they're red hot. But if they don't go any good and drop out, well, it could leave them very vulnerable. But, 11 scoring shots to 2. Their first quarter was ridiculous, 26-7 there, 3 goals, 8, so it could have been even more. But, yeah, look, for St Bede's Mentone, for Sam Hector's side, it was a difficult afternoon, particularly around the contest. They just got dominated there. But, yeah, St Kevin's just too good.
Just on Darcy Hepburn, he's up to 61 goals for the year. His last 5 weeks, he's gone 5, 5, 6, 4, 6. So just very consistent and, dominating.
Might get a mention in Time Watch a little bit later on.
Potentially.
Oh, well, and touching on that, what about the production line of key forwards down at St Kevin's? Like just another one holding forward there. Lachie, if we turn to Caulfield Grammarians, a really good win, especially when they've probably got guys in the seniors we touched on earlier in the show, 17 personnel changes in their senior side the last 2 weeks. A good win over Bo Morris.
Yeah, good win. Speaking of Coach Cooper Rule, he called it a win, but a frustrating win. Yes. They probably weren't at their best. But, as he said to me, 4 points is 4 points.
When you kick 8-18, that's enough to drive you crazy, Lachie. 8-18 to 6-8.
That's Yeah, that's the inaccurate goal kicking seems to be a theme in the competition this year. But nevertheless, they were good. Their pressure ball movement was really pleasing for Cooper, and eventually they were sort of later on in the game and able to create that separation that they needed. For Bo Morris, unfortunately, just another frustrating afternoon, and the start probably killed him. And yeah, look, they got the best of him in most aspects and were the deserved winners. So, shout out to Caulfield. They've had to face a lot of adversity this year, and good to see him back up the win here.
And Lockie, our man Hugo will be very happy with this result. DYLAN 21-point winners over Uni Blues, but the damage was done in the first half.
Yeah, that's right. 21-point winners over Uni Blues here. Andy Otten, DYLAN coach, said to me that they set up the win early, playing some really good attacking footy while also defending the ground really well. But yeah, look, Uni Blues didn't go away. They warmed to the contest as the day got on, and Steve Boak said if it wasn't for the slow start, they could have potentially got a result out of it. But unfortunately, DYLAN just took advantage early, and they couldn't really convert, and their ball use was a bit wasteful in that first half. So they also were sitting on, interestingly enough, they were 1-10 before they kicked their second goal. So just more inaccurate goal kicking, just killing teams, unfortunately. But yeah, good win by DYLAN.
Killing coaches as well. The final game of the weekend was our KTV game, part of our Tunners triple header down at Brighton Beach Oval. Old Brighton taking on Old Zabs. It was first versus second, so plenty of eyeballs on this one. And at three-quarter time, it was Zabs by one straight kick, 7-5 to 6-5. But the Zabs got going in the last term. They kicked 6 goals to 2 and ended up running out 33-point winners. Huge win for them.
Yeah, massive win. They're definitely the form team in the competition at the moment. They're absolutely airborne. And speaking to Old Brighton coach Trevor O'Donoghue, he seems to think it's going to be very hard to beat them if they play like that every week. They're the benchmark of the competition at the moment. They're extremely well coached. They're going to be very, very hard to beat come finals time. They've got a great group of players there, and they didn't just beat Old Brighton easily. They beat them in convincing fashion. So, it was a fantastic win from them.
Tips time as we look through round 16. As you mentioned, Lockie, you struggled early, but you came home to minimise the damage, let's say. Senchi ended up with 3, you ended up with 2. Senchi on 54, Lockie's on 45, so it's a 9-point lead for the Cench. So you'll have the honour this week. Under 19 Premier, Holmesglen football, round 17. 6 versus 8th, really important game, particularly for St Bede's Mentone Tigers. It's 9:20 at Mentone Reserve. The Tigers hosting Caulfield.
St Bede's.
St Bede's for Senchi.
Yeah, I'll take St Bede's as well here.
Parkdale in 9th against Old Zabs, as we mentioned, as hot a team in the competition as there is at the moment, sitting second, 9:20 at Jerry Green. Parkdale or the Zabs?
Zabs for me.
As much as I'd like to go Parkdale to try and get a strategic tip, I think Zabs will win.
That may not be the strategy. Getting up and running at the machine gun nest, not necessarily a great strategy, but you never know. Second versus second bottom in this mad season, anything's possible. Uni Blues 7th, taking on the top of the table, Brighton. Will the Tunners bounce back? This one's 11:40 at Crawford.
Yeah, they will bounce back, the Tunners.
Yeah, they will. They'll win.
At St Kevin's and DYLAN. This is probably the game of the round, I would think. St Kevin's in 3rd, DYLAN in 5th, 2 p.m. at TH King.
I'll go DYLAN.
DYLAN for the upset, yeah.
Oh, here's the opening. I'll go St Kevin's. There we go. Just get one back here, hopefully.
And our KTV game, part of a double header down at Camberwell. This is a 4 o'clock game, so a bit of Saturday night footy. You can tune in and watch the second half of this one after all the other games are finished around the competition. It's Old Scotch and Bo Morris. Senchi?
Scotch for me. Lockie, just before you tip, one of the Scotch players messaged me after the result on the weekend, and he said, when will Lockie learn? Because you keep tipping against Scotch, so will you do it again?
No, I won't do it again. I'll finally cave. I think they'll beat Bo Morris at home. But, yeah, look, I think they've definitely had the better of me over the last few weeks. But maybe Old Brighton to knock them off next week. Maybe, see what we can do.
You've sort of been the kiss of death, though, on Old Scotch. They may not want you to tip them. Every time you've tipped them, they've lost. And every time you haven't tipped them, they've won. So we'll see how that all pans out. Lockie, hey, thanks for your time, mate. We'll catch up with you again next week.
No worries, boys. Thanks for that.
Footy finals are almost here, and there's no better way to kick them off than at the 2026 William Buck VAFA Finals Luncheon. Join MC Nat Edwards, AFL legends and Brownlow medalists James Hird and Jimmy Bartel, plus Jason Bennett and the VAFA media team for a live For the Love of the Game finals preview. Friday, September 4th at the RACV City Club. Enjoy a premium 2-course lunch, beverage package and an unforgettable afternoon of football stories and finals insights. Book your tickets now at vafa.com.au. Don't miss out on one of the biggest events on the VAFA calendar.
Time now for Cench Watch. Hello, Cenchy.
Hello, Jason. How are you?
You have got an action-packed Cench Watch this afternoon. What do you got for us?
Let's start with the undefeated teams.
So we had, 4 coming into last week, were we?
Collegians Premier B Men's, DLA Premier B Men's Reserves, Wattle Park in Div 3 Men's, and Masala in Thirds, Div 5.
Who's your lock for the flag at this point?
In what competition?
No, out of these 4.
I'll go Wattle Park.
Wattle Park.
I'll go My Animals.
To go all the way?
I'm going to interrupt. Cench, I'm going to call you out. Fitzroy Reserves haven't lost.
And Fitzroy Reserves.
So that's 5.
There's 5.
Paul Royboy, 16-0 here, with a percentage of only 558. What have they done? How have they hurt you?
I do apologise to all Fitzroy.
There is a lot of sections, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
So 5, we're at 5 undefeateds.
We're at 5.
And you still stick with the Animals as being your lock to win the flag?
Yep, I reckon someone can beat Collegians.
Okay.
Yep.
Who do you think is most likely to do it?
You tell me.
You're the one who reckons it can be done.
We tried before. I said, what's your power rankings? He basically just read the ladder to us again.
I'll go dealer.
Okay. Yeah, these guys have been asking me for 17 weeks, and I still can't take it.
He said he'll tell us in a month. How useful. Hey, this time of the year with finals, and we're going to get into exactly who's playing who very, very shortly. But it does make for history, particularly in the women's competition, and some great results for the team just right here next door to us.
Yeah, so Elstonwick made the finals for the first time in the women's. The women's, they finished 3rd in Division 5 women. So yeah,
congratulations, great effort from them. Great for their program. We've had a lot of young guns come out of the VAFA playing VFL this year. And at the start of the year, I think we had 114 or something like that on the list. And we saw another make their debut on the weekend.
Yeah, Josh Cole, VFL debut for St Kilda. He was just surrounded by VAFA talent.
Yeah.
Everywhere he looked on the field, it was this bloke's from St. Kevin's, this bloke's from wherever. Yeah, unreal. Over to Q in Division 1 men's. They had 29 they kicked 29 goals on the weekend. They had 17 individual goal kickers. No one kicked more than 3 goals. Have you ever seen anything like that before?
That is incredible, isn't it? 29 goals and the most anyone kicks is 3.
Yeah.
So it
went like 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Yeah.
It'd be a bit stiff if you were playing in the forward pocket and you ended up not kicking one.
No, it's a coach's dream that they love sharing the goals around. They love individual goal kickers. They don't like the bear in the square kick in a bag anymore. So no, they'll be wrapped with that.
And we had an after the siren winner over the weekend.
Yep, Kip Smirk from Old Peninsula in
Kip Swerk.
Yeah, well, however you want to say
He
it.
was smirking, but I think it was Kip Swerk. You've been known as the smirker around here at the VAFA.
Holmesglen Under 19 South Div 2 men. So down by a point, about 15, 20 metres out on a slide angle. Puts it through for a 5-point victory over Parkdale.
Well done, Kip. Good work from you. Good win for Peninsula. Speaking of young guns who are doing great things and impressing people, one of your favourites, Jethro Gunn, down at the Jackers.
Well, yeah, favourite of the pod. Just looking at his stats right now, 45 touches against Old Camberwell, 16 contested, 10 marks, 8 tackles, 7 clearances. Best on in a big win, you could say, Matty?
Yeah, no, we touched on it in Prem, really important win for the Jackers to get back on the horse and back in the top 4 against a side that are gunning for that 4th place in Old Camberwell. So that's a huge win.
Just quickly, will Ajax play finals?
I think they might.
That's a
I think they might.
Definite maybe.
I'm sure I don't know. I feel like they might miss. I think they've got a game against DLA this week, which might prove pivotal.
That's the must win.
Over to another young gun, this time in Prem C men's, 20-year-old Alistair Maguire. 36 touches, 18 marks, 18 intercept possessions, 9 score involvements, and 8 contested marks.
Wow, that's a good day from Al.
So I'll go watch his highlights now and see what he...
There is so much great young talent in the competition this year. It's incredible. The Rising Star Committee are going to have an incredibly difficult job at the end of the season to try and sort through winners in both the men's and women's competitions.
Yeah, good luck to them, I say.
Yeah, fortunately, apparently they're very, very handsome, so I'm sure they'll do the job well. It is finals time. As we mentioned, we're going to go through some who's playing who shortly. But when it comes to under-19s and thirds and things, well, it's a numbers game, and no one does the numbers game better than Zabs.
Yeah, so Thirds Premier Men's qualifying final this week. Old Zavarians v Old Zavarians.
Who gets home ground advantage?
Zavs.
Have to try and find a way to find a neutral venue.
What about team selection? Sorry, we're dropping you to the second thirds.
Well,
Yes.
I believe one of their teams is under 23s or something, and then the rest are. Don't quote me on that, but yeah. So
Yeah. Look, I mean, they are the absolute benchmark, aren't they? When it comes to the pathway that they've built between their school and their footy club is to be applauded. It's the benchmark, really. It's the blueprint that every other club aspires to, Brayden.
Yeah, it's huge numbers. You don't really see those anywhere in a time where numbers are depleting at many footy clubs, especially the reserves, the lower grades. It's a phenomenal effort to Zavs, but I'm going to back Zavs 2 to get the job done.
Yeah, okay. Oh, and an upset over Zavs 1. Yeah. The traditional rivals.
See, I would tip, but it will probably be a draw.
Yeah,
and I'll get
true.
it wrong, so I'm not going to lean into that.
Old Melburnian's old Ivanhoe stats have just come through literally right this second.
Breaking news.
From Premier B men's on the weekend. Lachie Templeton's dropped 203 ranking points for the OMs. 44 disposals, 21 contested, 10 clearances and a goal.
That's a fair day's work.
Wow.
In a 6-point victory over.
Do OMs make finals? No, I'm kidding. We'll be here all day. We can go through literally every one. So we have got finals this weekend, Senchi, and a whole bunch of great VAFA finals content coming your way on socials over the coming weeks. It's a really exciting time. Finals run, I think, over 6 weekends between now and the end of September. It starts this week. We've got lots of thirds footy, thirds Premier Men's, as we mentioned, thirds Division 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for men's. All the women's divisional finals as well start this week. Division 1 women's through to Division 5. Premier B women's as well, their finals are on. And the Holmesglen Under 19 Premier women's also. So a packed schedule. For all the details of who plays who, when they play, where they play, etc., check out vafa.com.au. We're going to have a finals hub with a schedule on it. When you click on the main page, you can click on that article and it'll have exactly who's playing who, where and when. Lots to keep track of, Senchi, but it's a great time of the year.
This is why we do it this time of the year, so yeah, looking forward to it.
And always great stories to come out of all of these as well. Let's talk goal kickers. We love a spearhead. Senchi loves his big bags and he loves his ton watch. We're going to start with big bags. Week 18, and we had 2 double-figure hauls over the weekend. Your man Hayden Boyce from Mazenod just keeps on keeping on. He kicked another 11.
Yeah, what's he up to now?
It's up to 75. 75.
There's a pulse.
There is a pulse. We'll get to ton watch very shortly. And 11 also for Ari McLeod from Oakleigh Under 19s. Now, you might have remembered last week, it was only his 3rd game of the year. He kicked 11. In his 4th game of the year, he's kicked 11 again. Here's the kicker. He's an under 19 player. He's only 16 years old.
What? Wow.
And he's kicked back-to-back bags of 11. So he's kicked 24 goals in 4 games.
It's going to be a tough night at selection when ROGAN KITTS is sent back to the reserves.
For a 16-year-old. They might do a Rene Kink and bring him in for a final or play his first ever senior game at the age of 16. Ari McLeod, that's an unbelievable effort. 11 goals 2 weeks in a row from the 16-year-old at Oakleigh.
Where's he been playing all year, or has he not been playing, been injured? Or?
Hasn't been playing Oakleigh Under 19s. No, he's been playing local footy or somewhere else.
Yeah, he's probably already got 120 goals with that team. So what a challenge.
Incredible. 9 for ROGAN KITTS, as we mentioned, in Oakleigh Seniors. He's got 74 for the year. Hayden Boyce with 11s on 75. Ben Lauder from Beau Morris Under 19s. He kicked 9 for the weekend. Liam Thomas, you mentioned him earlier, Old Camberwell. He kicked 8. He's got 44 for the year. What a fantastic season he's having.
Yeah, no, he's definitely gone under the radar because there's been some good goal kickers in Prem B, but he's been one of them.
And 8 goals also for Shani Whiting from Willie CYMS in Premier B Women's. She's got 22 for the season. She's played a lot of Williamstown VFLW, and she was on Carlton's AFLW list in 2020 as well, was Shani. So she kicked 8 for the weekend, which is a fantastic effort from her. 4 players kicked 7 on the weekend. 11 players kicked 6, including Elizabeth Macy from St Kevin's Div 5. She booted 6 for the weekend. Let's talk ton watch, thanks to Sharon. And there's a couple of names that we've already just mentioned. Hayden Boyce kicked 11. He's got 35 in his last 5 games. He's kicked 12 goals in round 12, 11 goals in round 16. He's booted 11. He now leads by 1 goal. He's on 75. He's going to have 2 games left in Prem C, potentially plus finals, maybe 1 or 2 finals. Can he get there, Senchi? He's 25 from home.
They play Fitzroy in round 17 and St. Bede's in round 18.
You got to believe.
Come on.
No.
Yeah. Or not.
Or not, yeah, no.
Oh, well, that was Cench Watch.
Don't forget, if they lose these next 2 weeks, they probably
don't play finals.
Yeah,
that's right.
So.
Yeah. Any other negatives you want to throw up to just totally take the wind out of Tunwatch? Or
No.
Rogan Kitts on 74. He booted 9. James Stewart only kicked 2 on the weekend. He's on 71. So James has got 2 games plus at least 2 finals. So he's got 4 left, sitting on 71.
He probably needed to kick more this weekend. He probably needed to go more than 2.
Luca Lallo, no goals on the weekend. He's on 68. Pat Carricker from Therry Penola kicked 2. He's also on 68. 4 clear of Mahi Patel, who is on 64. He kicked another 6. He's kicked 26 goals in his last 6 weeks, the 17-year-old at Willie CYMS. What a year he's had.
Outstanding 12 months for him. It's been a bit of a disappointing season for Williamstown in Premier B, but he's been the shining light of the campaign.
And they're in the mix in the under-19s, so I'll have to have a look and see whether or not he played. Do you know if he played 19s or seniors on the weekend to make sure he qualifies for 19s?
Believe he played 19s.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. So he could easily be leading them to premiership glory over the next month or so. Joey Katsubas, who's that man from Masala, who the 21-year-old in his first season, who's come out of nowhere. We hadn't mentioned him all year until the last few weeks. He kicked another 5. He's also up to 64, level with Mahi Patel. He's kicked 31 goals in his last 7 games. He's kicked 18 in his last 3. Joey, so certainly he's found his feet. Also 64 for Tom Gorell, who kicked 2 on the weekend. Darcy Hepburn, we mentioned, kicked 6 for Scob under 19s. He's on 61. 2 for Michael Van Benton from MHSOB. He's on 58. Mitch Brown stuck on 57. And Charlie McIsaac kicked 4. He's on 56. So leading the way, it's 1 goal of difference at the top of the table. Hayden Boyce on 75. Rogan Kitts on 74. James Stewart on 71. Luca DeLello and Pat Carricker on 68. They're your top 5 in Tunwatch. Then in the VAFA Women's, it was 4s across the board. Jordan Mifsud kicked 4. She's on 46. Bella Geetzman kicked 4. She's on 39. Mia Cowan kicked 4. She's on 35. Georgia Harris goalless. A first-time mention for Sienna Simons from Parkdale Vultures, Division 3, 25-year-old, her 7th VAFA season. She kicked 2. She's up to 29 for the year. And Asha Price is on 28. So Mifsud on 46. Geetzman 39. Mia Cowan on 35. They're your leading goal kickers in the VAFA Women's competition, which leads us to tips time. How'd you go, Maddie?
15?
Well, given there's only 14 games, that'd be a fair effort.
14.
9 out of 14 for you.
That's okay.
Brayden got 10. He's always just one up in here every week.
I reckon last week was the exact same.
Yeah, that's it. He's just been doing it in increments, one at a time. So the margin now between you is 14, 146 to 132. As we look at, we'll start with Premier Women's, round 17, and the match of the season so far. It is first versus second. Caulfield hosting Old Scotch, 11:40 at Glen Huntly. What a game this is going to be. They are clearly the top 2. They'll meet again in a couple of weeks in the second semi-final. Who wins the warm-up game at Glen Huntly, Brayden?
The Cardinals to remain unbeaten.
Old Scotch.
Caulfield.
And Caulfield for you. Old Brighton in 5th against Old Geelong in 6th. Massive game, 11:40 Brighton Beach Oval.
I'll go Old Brighton.
Yeah, I've tipped Old Brighton as well.
Westbourne versus St Kevin's, 9th versus 8th, 2 p.m, Andrew Park.
St Kevin's.
St Kevin's.
And the final game of the weekend, a critical one for Brunswick. West Brunswick 3rd, Fitzroy are 7th, 2 p.m. at McAllister.
The Magpies.
Yeah, West Brunswick.
Pies for both, and Q have the bye. Across the page to Premier B Men's, round 17. The critical game, Old Geelong, 8th, but still in the mix. Old Camberwell, 5th, but still in the mix. What a game this one's going to be. Brayden, you're on it.
Tom Gorell to be amongst the big bags next week and win the game for Old Geelong.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get a read on a lot of teams. Old Camberwell have been the one I've struggled to get a read on most. I'm going to tip Old Geelong here.
Old Geelong. Senchi?
Old Geelong.
Old Geelong across the board for the upset. 8th to beat 5th. The bottom 2 teams, Willie CYMS 9th, Old Ivanhoe are 10th. Old Ivanhoe, as we know, are going to be relegated. Willie are fighting for their life. It's highly unlikely. They've got to win this game and win it well.
The Hoers are going to drag Willie down with them, I think, here.
Okay.
I'm going to go Williamstown. They've got something to fight for.
Yeah, I'll go Williamstown as well.
6th versus 7th. Another critical game in the middle of this ladder. I know we say it every game's critical because it always seems to be 2 teams next to each other on the ladder every week. Beaumaris 6th. Old Carey 7th. The winner's still alive. For the loser, it's almost curtains. It's going to be very hard to make it.
Old Carey's form, I think, is just going to stack up, and I reckon they're going to keep rolling, and I'm actually thinking they're going to finish 4th.
You reckon they can do it again and roll in and take the last seat?
Yeah, well, it's I mean, depending on if Ajax get up, the loser of this one, their season will be done.
Yep.
I'm just going to ride with Bo Morris. I still have enough faith in them. I'm going to tip them here.
Yeah, Bo Morris for me as well.
OM's in third against Collegians top.
The Lions.
Yeah, Collegians.
I went Williamstown against Collegians last week. I'll stick going against Collegians. OM's for me.
It's a bit of...
He's got nothing to lose, Senchi, and then he just knows he can whack it on socials, and he tipped this.
Yeah. Well, this is a tricky one for all Melburnians because they've obviously got Collegians, but their percentage compared to everyone else around them leaves them vulnerable. If they lose this match, they could find themselves outside the four with the game to go and with a bit of percentage to overcome too.
Do we know if Collegians have started resting players or...
Not sure.
I mean, based on the score at the weekend, I don't think that's started yet.
Well, this might be the week to do it.
I don't think that will matter, to be honest. I think their depth's far too good.
Okay.
And then, arguably the biggest of them all, Ajax fourth against DYLAN CENCH second.
Oh, I'm going to go DYLAN and they'll lock up the double chance as well.
Yeah, DYLAN.
DYLAN across the board.
That's definitely, I think, the toughest to tip this weekend in Prem B.
William Buck, Premier Men's, round 17, penultimate round action. All these games at 2 p.m. on Saturday. This one you'll see live on VAFA TV and listen live with our SEN call team led by our own Matthew Donald from 1:45 Saturday. It is a must-win for the Bloods. Old Haileybury versus Old Zabs at Princess Park. We saw St Bernard's last week on their own deck drag a top team down. Can the Bloods do it this week?
I don't think so. I think Zab's just starting to get that game in the right order for the real stuff, and I think they'll win pretty comfortably.
Yeah, they're just getting stronger with names coming back the last few weeks, the Zabs, and I can't see them falling here.
Can you mount an argument for the Bloods, Senchi?
Unfortunately, no, Zabs.
Old Scotch versus Uni Blacks. You'll also see this game on KTV live and exclusive from 1:55. Actually on VAFA TV as well, Scotch and Blacks. From Camberwell, who do you like?
I think it's 1:15 start, Jason.
Oh, it's the earlier game. Yes, that's right. They've got the big 4 games in the one day.
Cardinals for me.
Yeah, Cardinals.
Cardinals with Harry Dixon back in the lineup.
Which means Blacks will come to round 18 still in the danger zone if that eventuates. University Blues versus Caulfield, 1:55 KTV from Melbourne University.
The Blues.
The Blues will bounce back here. They won't lose at home twice in a row.
Yeah, the Blues.
St Bernard's versus Old Brighton. The Snowdogs fighting for their life. And if there's one place you don't want to have to go is the Snake Pit when St Bernard's are fighting for their life. But that's what Old Brighton's got this week.
Yeah, I think the Tunners will get the job done.
I really want to tip the Snowdogs just for the theatre of it. Yeah, I'm not catching Brayden. We're going the Snowdogs here.
Jump on the Snowdogs. Charlie Vague's enthusiasm and energy got you.
Yeah, I've been swept up in it.
It was a compelling argument.
And it's going to be quite a crowd there on Saturday. It's going to be a ripping atmosphere.
They will play with nothing to lose. And to be fair, neither do Brighton. Brighton don't have anything to lose either, but Brighton also have nothing to gain, and that's the difference.
We're just seeing their function on Saturday. It's Storm the Pit. So, the Snowdogs for me.
Snowdogs for you.
Yeah.
Ride the emotion to another win and keep it all the way. Wouldn't that create some theatre for the final round?
Yep.
Wow. And another game which is going to be critical in this relegation race. Old Trinity taking on St Kevin's at Daily Oval.
St Kevin's.
Yeah, I'm going to go St Kevin's.
You tipping your boys?
My boys. Yeah.
After 3 years, Matthew Donald just happens to drop into conversation. Yeah, I went to St Kevin's. Yeah. Really? You've kept that very quiet for the last...
I honestly thought you guys knew.
No.
No, I'm going to tip St Kevin's to respond here.
Of course you are. That's the problem with the commentator. As soon as people know you barrack for.
And St Kevin's for me too.
St Kevin's for you. And our VAFA Media schedule over the weekend, as we mentioned, SEN VAFA TV, Old Haileybury versus Old Zabs. You'll see that live and free on VAFA TV, and you can listen to the call on the SEN app as well with Maddie, Hugo and the boys. Old Scotch versus Uni Blacks, KTV and VAFA TV. And also it's the Old Scotch double, because we've also got Old Scotch versus Bo Morris in the Under-19 Premier game, which is the later game. That's the 3:55 at Camberwell, so you can get a little bit of Saturday night footy between Old Scotch and Bowie. And also the Premier Men's clash between the Blues and Grammarians on KTV coming up as well. Congratulations to everyone who has made finals. As we mentioned, thirds Premier Men's, Thirds Division 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 men's. All the divisional women's teams, Premier B women's, Holmesglen Under 19 Premier women's as well, all kicking off their finals campaigns. Best of luck to everybody. Congratulations on making it. Best of luck this weekend. Best of luck too to all the teams that are fighting to make finals over the next week or two and to avoid relegation. So much on the line at this time of the year. We'll be back next week to break it all down for you for the love of the game.